who are present here and who are watching us through YouTube Live today. We welcome our guest of the day, Sri Vinod Joshi ji, as Secretary, Ministry of Tourism. I would invite Ms. Mohini to sort of hand over the bouquet and welcome our guest of the day. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mohini. Now, I would invite Varun sir to come and give a brief overview about the UPSC interviews 2020-21, followed by we'll have a session with Vinod sir.
Hello everyone, welcome students and especially sir, who has graced us with his esteemed presence today. Before we start, the first session, as sir would be doing, would be on DAF analysis, right? And after that, we'll go to the question and answers, and we will prefer a lot of questions from the students today. That's one. Let's start. Briefly, I'm just starting about the interview session. So what I would like to share is 10 years ago when I took the interview, what challenges I faced while taking the interview. Now, I was still studying at that time. I was in final year of college. I was doing my master's, right? So obviously is from MBA from FMS, right? So I am from IIM Calcutta. So I was studying in my first year there while I took UPSC. Not something you should do, but I did that. So while the interview stage is one stage where we can't hide behind our books. That is what I feel, right? If I talk about the interview preparation. Other times, whatever we do, whenever we start, studying, so prelims for mains, we tend to go to a zone of comfort, right? So let's say I like history or I like polity. So I keep reading the same book again and again. So that is something that is a natural response of any student once he is a little afraid of what's going to happen. And remember, while we are preparing, we are isolated to a larger extent. We have not interacted with so many people across the prep time. And most of us have been preparing for 2 years plus when we actually reach the interview stage. So what happens is that despite the fact we know the answer to most of the questions asked in an interview, we really don't find the right words to say it. And, and that is where interview preparation, the DAF analysis, looking at your own mock videos really helps, right? So that is one of the most important areas I would always suggest. Further, I always suggest that always watch your mock videos with a muted sound and just look at your expressions while you're answering a question. That is perhaps the most important thing that I did while I was just analyzing my body language for interviews. Okay. Interviews are difficult. The reason is simple. There are 5 people in front of you, you're one. So the odds are always against you, just based on that. So I would like to say that interviews are supposed to be taken with a pinch of salt, right? They do not really define you. Let's say some of you would have got less marks last year, and let's say you're taking the interview again. Don't think that whatever marks you scored last year is something that will happen again, right? And they're not something, like you're a bad person or there's some character flaw in you. It is more that, if you scored less previously, it's all about you couldn't present the best version of yourself, right? And that, personally, I felt happens when we forget why we were preparing in the first place, right? So because there's prelims, there's mains, then there's interviews, so the cycle goes on and on. What happens is that we tend to forget the original reason why we were preparing for UPSC or why we want to become an IS officer or why we want to serve our country. And that is something that I think during this time, the interview stage, you definitely need to go back and think about why you're preparing. and why, because then everything else fades away. Okay? Because remember, you have actually sacrificed a lot while preparing. You struggled, you worked hard, you've reached a stage, it's a final step. I'm pretty sure you will do well, but at the same time, don't forget why you're doing it, right? And it's to serve our country, and there can be personal reason as getting a well-settled job, etc. But those things, you can leave on the side and remember, okay, why you work so hard. Okay, so that's from my side. So now I would like to introduce Sir, Mr. Vinod Jutsi, sir. And so he was the tourism secretary from 2015 to 17. He's a alumni of Harvard Kennedy School, and he's also alumni of FMS Delhi. He also is a lawyer and has great experience in the tourism sector. So, sir, if you could come and share your views.
Good morning, friends. Can you hear me? Or shall I bring it close? Is it okay? This is better? Okay. Thank you for the introduction and giving me this opportunity, Sleepy Classes and Quantel. It's really a pleasure for me to address the youngsters preparing for the civil services examination. And fortunately, because of the opportunity, and I was privileged to get some opportunities to be in the UPSC board and also holding mock interviews on behalf of various organizations. It has given a better insight about what kind of issues the candidates have appearing for the personality test and interview. Now, the structure of my address today would be, I'll speak for about 20-25 minutes, and I would love if more and more questions come from the audience, because you are the person who is going to face the interview shortly, and you would be having lots of questions. And those questions would be different, or have to be different for different candidates, because the DAF of each of you is different. So that itself means that every candidate will be asked different set of questions, especially from DAF point of view. There may be common questions on international relations, economy, social sector, and many other current affairs, international affairs, because you can't keep creating new current affairs of importance. But DAF, of course, would be unique in each of your case, so I would prefer if you ask questions. Even in the mock interviews that I am a member of, my effort is always to spend a lot of time for feedback, because it is for that the candidates come. It's a practice on one hand that for 20, 25, 30 minutes you sit, you perform, but more important is that the candidates, they are eager to know how I have performed. So merely just watching the video back home that how I have performed would not give you an idea, because you performed the way you thought is the best. But whether it was the best, that has to be assessed by the interview board, and this is what is very important. So having said this, ladies and gentlemen, let me, for those who are appearing for the first time in the interviews, let me remove some myths and maybe give some basic facts about the interview. Firstly, it's a 30-minute interview, and invariably for every candidate, they will spend 30 minutes. Whether the candidate is supposed to be very bright from their eyes, or he may not be doing well, but 30 minutes is a right to every candidate. Number two, it is not a stress interview. the board invariably makes the candidate very comfortable. And to make comfortable, they begin with the questions related to your DAF. And DAF is all about what you have written, what you have done in your life. So these are the two things. And thirdly is that when you speak on the questions, don't expect that somebody will nod the head that yes, you are right, or will no, will not do such a thing. That means whatever you say, you should be confident enough that you have said correctly. Don't seek validation. Again and again, I don't know whether I have said the same thing. This member was having a very frowning face. That means I have done something wrong. Now, the member may make his expression, that's a different thing. But they will certainly facilitate you on 2-3 things. If you are wanting to make a guess, then you can make a request ki, sir, I am not very sure about the answer, but sir, can I make a guess? They will certainly say yes, please do. That is a facilitation. Number 2, if you want some time to think, they will certainly allow you, sir, can I think for some time? Yes, please. Now, don't mention some time. Don't mention, yesterday there was a mock interview which I was there. So somebody asked, sir, can I think for 30 seconds? So 30 seconds is huge. So later on in the feedback I said, don't mention time. It's a normal way to say, give me a minute. Now a minute is huge, even huger than 30 seconds, of course. So don't ask for any particular time. Sir, can I take some time to think? And so you can give a pause and then answer. Now these are some of the basic things, that the posture that you hold during your sitting. If institutes have told you that you place your hand on the lap and keep sitting like a statue, that is also not good. You may start with that, but you should keep changing the position of your hand. You can bring it in the middle, you can again keep it in the lap. Now that shows that you are confident about yourself and you are relaxed. So this is another myth. Another thing which is very funny, in fact I would like to tell you, and I have tried to guide all those candidates who have come to me in the mock interviews. Among the male candidates, I don't know, they come with the closed button of their jacket, and the moment they enter, all their attention is on opening of the jacket button and sitting and then looking at the button and then sitting down. And when they are getting up, again they spend some 2-3 seconds on closing the button and walking out. So I am really not aware as to why these closing and opening of buttons happen, because they distract your attention. And suppose if the button at times, it's not going inside all the time. So instead of greeting the members, good morning, sir, and then you are trying to, your mind is on the button. Don't do that. Get into one position. If you are comfortable with the open jacket, do that. It will help you in sitting also properly and then getting up also. You close the button when you get out of the room. Idea is not that UPSC board is very particular about buttons. I am only mentioning that there is no time for distracting your attention. So this is another general point. These are the tips which I thought when you enter. These are different from the knowledge content and your personality part. Now coming to what UPSC is looking at, from a candidate in those 30 minutes. I'm only touching upon some of the things. Rest you can read from the notification which has been issued for this year's examination as to what is personality test, what are they looking for. So basically they are not looking for the knowledge which you have already acquired and you have appeared in the main examination. and you have done so well, that is why you are in the interview stage. Number two, they are looking for your intellectual qualities. You are looking at the mental alertness. They are looking at your balance of judgment. They are looking at your social traits. And all these get reflected, and there are some more. Your moral integrity, your keenness to know new things, which a young mind like yours would certainly look for. Now, all these, they cannot gauge by your external appearance. They will gauge only through the answers that you give. So, in your answers, you have to be, you have to show the balance of judgment. You have to show the quality of content which shows your expresses and exhibits your intellect level, and your mental alertness can be exhibited by the way you are aware about the surroundings, which means current affairs, international affairs, national whatever, that you are knowing everything, a little about everything happening around you. Now, coming to the DAF, I am briefly touching on each and every aspect, and then when you ask questions, I can, expand it further, whichever area you are more interested in. Now, coming to DAF, you all have filled DAF. Now, the questions which are picked up from your DAF, let me just summarize that, instead of going in detail. First is, you start with your name and everything. For that, the first question that UPSC board asks you, suppose if any of your, suppose I take a name Sandeep. So Sandeep, please sit down. The chairperson will say. And then the first question that Sandeep will be asked is, so Sandeep, tell us very briefly about yourself, your academic qualifications, your work experience, if any, and your main hobbies. Now, you have to restrict to these 3-4 things. So, the reply would be, sir, I am Sandeep, whatever surname. I have done graduation. Now, don't start with schooling. That would mean wasting of time. And when I say wasting of time, your effort should not be to spend 30 minutes kaise nikle. Your effort should be that in those 30 minutes, I should be questioned as many questions as possible, so that I am able to show my, my strength, and I am able to answer more and more questions. For that, I will later on tell what are the weaknesses which generally students, the candidates do, and which reduces the number of questions, because time is the same. So, coming to, I am Sandeep, I did graduation, I am BTech from IIT Delhi, and sir, I have worked for a brief period of 6 months in Wipro, and I was preparing for the civil services simultaneously, and sir, I have cleared and I am appearing for the interview today. My main hobbies are 1, 2. Now, rest of the things apart from hobby, you cannot ignore, you cannot hide. But in the hobbies, you may have mentioned 5 things. You must pick up and tell, because you have been asked to tell main hobbies. You don't have to give the list of hobbies. So when you say main hobbies, touch upon the hobby where you are strongest. Because the moment you give your telling in the beginning is like a cue, C-U-E, for the board, that you are giving a hint that you are good at this hobby, and the question on hobby could then be possibly asked from that particular hobby that you have mentioned in the initial introduction. Or else they may pick up any of the hobbies that you have mentioned, and you may not be very confident about telling or maybe giving an answer to any question under the category of hobby. So this is about, now that is still in your hands. I would even tell the candidates or the students who are going to fill DAF that they should, while filling the hobbies, they should be very careful about mentioning only those hobbies where they are very strong. Because number of hobbies, if you give a long list, is not going to get you any extra marks. That is there. But it should not be blank also. That would show that, he has no social traits, he has no hobbies. That is also, that goes against the personality. So this is just a small hint. Now, friends, starting from the DEF, I have mentioned about introduction. Now, the questions within the DAF, what are the possible areas? Number one, if you are from village, your district, your state. You're likely to get the first question or maybe one of the questions from, and when it is a district or a state, you may be asked multiple kinds of questions. So what is the special feature about your district? And suppose if that district is well known, or a city. If somebody is from Delhi, maybe straight away, they may not ask Delhi, but immediately the question could be, so what are the problems that Delhi is facing and what do you think are the strengths of Delhi? So sir, pollution is this, and then you can come out and make it structured, 1, 2, 1, 2. Similarly, Rajasthan, okay, tell me the strong points of Rajasthan, where Rajasthan has done well all these years, and what are still the weaknesses which Rajasthan is fraught with. So a person coming from Rajasthan obviously should know about his state. Even if he has left 20 years ago, it does not matter. As I generally tell the candidate, you may have left Rajasthan or your state, but Rajasthan will not leave you when it comes to your interview. Similarly, so your village, and when you are from a village, there are chances, friends, that you should prepare for that. Village economy, how to, digital literacy, what are the problems of village, how rural development has been happening, what are the various programs related to village, because you are from a village. You should know what all programs, poverty alleviation, housing, Ayushman, health, the various sectors, how it has permeated to the rural area, and how would you make your village digital? That's my favorite question. And how would you remove the digital divide in your district? Or how would you bring digital literacy in your district? If he is a person from computer background, electronics, IT. So the questions are related and merged with your qualifications. So coming back to your village, city and district. Now, city, you must go through all the issues that the city has faced or the district has faced. If it has come into prominence over the last, say 1 year period. But the closer is the event to the interview, the more important it is. If something has happened today, it is the most important thing. Which means you should read the newspaper of today also when you go for the interview. And not just the headlines, mind you. If it is a new item, you have to also go into the history of it, whatever time you have. So this is about, so your place of stay, where you have lived, where you have, spent your life, and your state. Now that is first. The second likely questions would there then be from and also when they ask questions, they may not be very straight questions that, okay, tell us good points about Rajasthan, bad points about Rajasthan. Okay, in Rajasthan lately this thing has happened. Suppose somebody is from Assam, somebody from Manipur, Nagaland. So most likely question is, all right, this AFSPA has been, tweaked, some relaxation in Assam. So what do you think, how will it make difference? Will it make difference in your state? And then, so applied. So current affairs and your state. So look for all the happenings and events which have happened over the last, say, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and go on till 1 year, and see what has occurred related to your. Now, when I say occurred, it doesn't mean political happenings. It means social, economic, some incident which had repercussions on the entire nation, something related to your job. Every question that the board wants to ask is something that they're looking in you, how would you as a civil servant tackle this problem? So the scale and the level and the quality of question is also related to something which you may have to do in your services. So that is the first part. Now we come to the qualifications. So one question definitely is from your qualification. If you are a civil engineering, you may expect a different set of questions. If you are a mechanical engineer, if you are an electrical engineer, if you are electronics, IT, computer, you may get same set of questions. If you are a communication engineer, then may be related to communications. So you must know, and with all the engineers, there is a common factor which can be asked from anyone: technology. You are a bachelor of technology, whether you are electronics or mechanical and whatever. So how has technology transformed sectors, health sector, education sector, how it has improved the lives of people? And in mechanical engineering, of course, automobiles and electric vehicles, for electrical engineers, for electronics, again digital transformation, how we faced COVID with the help of electronics and technology and IT, how IT has been able to reduce the corruption, what is faceless economy, what is all these. So you must know, and better would be that when you tell all these things, it should not be in a very layman's terms. It should be the programs which government has taken up. For example, DBH, DBT, direct benefit transfer. Now today all the money is transferred directly to the beneficiary. And similarly, so corruption point, when you say, you will have to give some instances. Don't just repeat what the board or member has said. If it is economics, expect a lot of questions. There are some people who have done, multiple subjects: financial management, accounting, this, that. Now today when we address, since we are limited people, I would rather focus on the qualifications which the candidates who are present today would have chosen or have done. So one question related to that. Now again, economics will not ask you any microeconomics. What is demand, supply, what is elasticity of demand? You will be asked macro factors. Okay, you think India's economy has revived? Tell me broad 4 or 5 national macro indicators which prove that economy is still not good, or it is very good. How do you compare with China? $5 trillion will we be able to achieve? How was the economy during the COVID time? The V-shaped economy, what do you understand by this? What do you project after US-Ukraine, so Russia and Ukraine war? United Nations has expected that 2% would be there because of this war. What is RBI's monetary policy? Should the repo rate be changed? Isn't inflation a problem at this stage? So you have to give substantiate with figures. So every qualification, now economics is something, friends, even if you're an engineer, you may be asked this question. International relations, economics, and some social sector area, education, health. This is a common denominator. You can expect, all of you can expect questions from this area. And current affairs, of course, national and international. So these are the common things. The specific things are related to your qualifications. So you have to be ready with that. Now avoid 2, 3, 4 things. One, when you introduce, don't mention anything about your parents, about your economic status, about, sir, I have studied, under the street light, and my father was very poor. I come from a very poor family. Please don't mention anything. And another question then would be, maybe before they come to your qualification point. So, Sandeep, you are IT from Delhi, and you are working in such a good company, Wipro. So instead of being a technocrat, why are you taking this line? Why do you want to go for civil services? Now, this is just one example. This can be asked from everyone. So this is like a question which all of you should be prepared with. And generally, again I am telling from the experiences, and the result is that they may not get good marks, is that, okay, what made you get into civil services? So they'll start with their dream, childhood dream. Or they will say, ki, oh, my father was, wanting me to get into the civil services. Also, I saw in my village one IS officer came to us and he gave a lecture, and I was so impressed with him that, I decided to change my line and go into IS. Please don't do this. Getting into civil services is your own passion. Getting into civil services is because of certain reasons which you thought and were not influenced by anyone. Because you wanted to be in the public services. Because you wanted to serve as many people as I could. Because you wanted job satisfaction. Because you wanted more challenges and opportunities. Because you wanted more exposure in life. Because you wanted more job satisfaction. And there can be 2 or 3, 4 more points which you can mention. So it has to be you who has decided. Don't bring any of your family member, don't bring any friends. There are people who narrate the whole story. So one day it so happened that he came and he did a very good job in our village, so we were impressed. They are all negative points. So this is again a no-no. So you must prepare and structure it, mind you. The DAF questions, friends, since you are expecting them, you must, the guest questions you should list out for yourself. Just the way you must have prepared the mains examination. Like I remember when I did my preparation, we used to make cards of main, questions on current affairs in every subject because the words are limited. So within those 120 words, 60 words, 80 words, you have to give the best. You can't start with the definition of this is that, so you have wasted 12 words. So structured. Same is in the interview also. What you speak should be the most substantive thing in the least possible words. And that can happen because your mind will not be so fertile that it will generate your thoughts and will structure it also immediately. So prepare as many questions as you can. And these are some of the questions which I've mentioned. There are more which you should prepare. And then it will be very easy for you to structure. Now when it comes to current affairs, even that you can prepare questions. And when it comes to subjects, same matter can be asked in different manner. Take once Ukraine and US-Soviet war. Now a question could be, all right, please give your analysis and comments about India's stand. Number 2, you think India's foreign policy is being tweaked and some shift is being noticed? You think India do a cost benefit analysis of for India, because of its stand? Are we going to have problems later on with the Western countries? You think that our decision on being abstaining or maybe taking a neutral stand is okay? How is India's trade affected with Ukraine and Russia and with this stand? Now, everything is related to certain basic information which should, and once you know, you can always answer each of the questions asked in a different manner. So structure it, make points. So this is about your why civil services. I spoke about your subjects. One optional subject that you have taken, you should go quite thorough with the implications and the applied part of that subject, because those subjects are so tempting at times. Sociology, they invite you a question about society, how things are changing and all. Economics, geography, political science. Now these are all very tempting questions. And of course engineering, if you have taken, that also would invite. Even if you have taken a different discipline and taken engineering, normally it doesn't happen. So your optional subject should also be touched upon, and you should frame questions as to what are the possible questions, applied aspects. What would you do if you were the district magistrate of a district? How would you ensure women empowerment? And when I said women empowerment, women officers, women candidates should expect some question on women empowerment, on status of women. A very favorite question these days which I ask, India is celebrating 75 years. What has India achieved in the last 75 years in terms of empowerment of women? What do you think India has remained bound as a unified nation for these 75 years? Tell me 4 or 5 factors. What are the biggest goals that India has achieved over the last 75 years? Now, this is a very tempting question because we are in the midst of that 75th year. So, your views. Now, the question may be molded like this. If you were the DA, what would you do? There can also be a life situation. You know, there's a power cut in your electrical engineer, there's a power cut in your district, and there is no electricity. Everything has come to a standstill. What would you do? Now, possibly relate yourself to the district also as to what are the various challenges that they face. Floods. Those living in the Andhra area, I mean, I generally ask the coastal, okay, you're the DM, how would you tackle? And incidentally, the other day, 2 days ago, there was a candidate from Odisha. And I put this question, if there is a cyclone and you are DM of a coastal district, what actions you would take 48 hours before you come to know? So he answered something. Then in the feedback session, he said 2 years ago, I was asked the same question and I could not reply. So there is a trend. You know, coastal districts may be asked certain question. Similarly, district, state-wise, whatever are the special things would certainly become the question. Then comes your prizes, medals, extracurricular activities and hobbies. Now, one question certainly would be there, irrespective of whether it is hobby or whether it is any prize that you won, whether any NSS activity, NSS camp you did, and NCC or any project that you did, something that will arouse the interest of the panel. But by and large, they are not related to those things which are purely personal. I mean, there can be exceptions. You see, don't expect me to come out with everything that this will be asked, this will not be asked, but I'm basically telling you in terms of greater probability. So even in hobbies, when you have other hobbies which have a wider ramifications, wider importance, don't stick to, I sing, I listen to music, I watch OTT platform movies, I'm very fond of Netflix. Avoid. What is Civil 7 going to do with Netflix after he gets into? Touch upon an area which you have already mentioned in your DAF, where you can speak something related to some interest of the society and the nation. NSS camp, I did NSS. Okay, what did you do? So, sir, I was engaged in teaching students in the rural village. We went to a tribal village. This. Now, this is something which is interesting. And even if it comes to asking you the last question, which I should mention here, that there is always, invariably, sometimes some boards may or may not ask, depending upon the time also. See, the last question which the board asks is, the chairperson generally asks, all right, Sandeep, we have covered quite a few areas. If there is anything uncovered, left uncovered, and anything of the subject of your choice, please tell us, we will ask a question from the subject of your topic, the topic of your choice. Now, which means, presuming that this will be a short question, I have been asking in the mock interview every student, because he should be prepared. So, you have to list out 2 or 3 topics of which are favorite to you. They need not be your hobbies. They need not be your prizes, medals, NSS or whatever. They are from anywhere. Now, first of all, before I come to what should you do, let me tell you what you should not do. Number 1, sir, I have nothing in mind, sir. So I'm fine. Don't do that. Second, sir, you have already covered everything. I don't think there's anything left. Never do this. And third, sir, you may ask anything you want. That's what the interview board has been doing all this 30 minutes. So avoid these three things. So what should you do? Sir or ma'am, please ask me something from a project that I did for rural housing in my state. Okay, tell us what you did. Now, you should be very well versed with that particular thing. So prepare in your mind those topics कि ये जब पूछेंगे तो मैं एकदम से ये जवाब दूंगा. And if any of those two, three topics that you have listed in your mind for the last question, if something has already been asked, then don't repeat it. Because the board will say, bhai हमने पूछ तो लिया आपसे. It could also be political science, or international relations, flana, sir, subjects, sectors, sir, energy sector, sir, agriculture, sir, industry, sir, electronics. But be very careful. If you give a very wide-ranging subject, then the questions can also be, can be asked from anywhere. And then if you're not able to answer, it will be slightly worse than what if you're not able to answer a question which the board has created for you, because it is your own choice. So be careful about not picking up a subject where you are not very well versed, where you cannot speak good. Number two, where you may get trapped by its size, and anything can be asked in the world. So this is about the last question. 2-3 more tips I would like to give, because I've been noticing every day. How long should your answers be? Now, there is no set limit depending on the question, but for heaven's sake, don't be longish. Don't expect that somebody will ask you to stop. Okay, Sandeep, that's all. We have understood. They will never say that. You will keep on and on and on. Now, especially if you have too much of knowledge, then you speak long. Or if you don't know anything, so you beat around the bush and keep expanding, because you keep telling yourself, I'm not happy with the answer that I've given, so let me pick up on one more point, let me pick up another point, and keep telling, maybe one point is correct. Never do that. And if you're totally oblivious and not aware of the answer of the question, 2-3 things can happen. If you're surely not ready to answer that question, which your mind will immediately tell, and should tell, ask yourself, can you answer this? No. Sir, I'm sorry, I will read about it. I am sorry, I will not be able to do justice. Number 2, sir, I have heard about it, so can I guess? Yes, please, you can. Thirdly, sir, I can think for some time. Yes. Now, when you think for some time, 2 things can happen. You may not be able to bring it or retrieve it. Then also you should say, sir, I'm sorry, I'm not able to recall. All right, no problem, no worries. Number 2, you start something, and then you are able to tell. But don't at that time keep looking at them that they will validate. Sir, as far as I remember, it is like this, and this. And you just finish that. Or third could be that you started, but midway you could not continue and say, sir, I won't be able to do justice, I'm sorry. These are the 3 do's that you could do in case of. And for those questions where you need some time to structure, give a pause. For example, Sandeep, tell me, what are your views about India's neutral stand on this war? Now, Sandeep wants to structure it, or Sandeep wants to recall it. Anything. It's better not to start immediately. Sir, I feel that this. Now, promptness, and then later on, after half a minute, you say, sir, I'm sorry, sir, beyond this I cannot. That is worse. Better would be that you give a pause in the beginning itself, immediately after your question is asked. So Sandeep, and then you give a pause of 2, 3, 4 seconds, and you're acting, you are basically showing that, or maybe looking that you are trying to recall, and you are actually recalling. So that those 3-4 seconds will go very well. But starting promptly and then not able to answer, and then you start thinking, sir, next point, sir, I don't do that. Another thing, okay, tell me 4 things that you have to say about how India has done in the last 75 years. Tell me 4 areas where we have done so well. So first is this, second is this, third is, and so fourth I don't remember. Be very frank if you're not able to find the fourth. Second situation, you have not been told 1, 2, 3, 4, how many you have to tell. Okay, tell me the basic features about India's foreign policy. So first is neighborhood first policy. Second is Act East policy towards the, and then third non-alignment, and fourth. So if you are not remembering the fourth one, don't come to the fourth and then say, sir, I can't recall anymore. You finish at third. And your mind knows that you only need 3 points. तो उसी को ही ऐसे बोलो कि sir, firstly this, mainly sir, the main features are 1 this, second this, and third is this. There are some more, sir. If you want, I can try to. No, it's fine. So don't fumble, don't create problem for yourself. And don't say, sir, I'm sorry to say, I'm sorry. Sir, if I remember, yesterday there was somebody who was in Hindi, he was answering. So he says, मैं ये सोचता हूँ कि ऐसा होना चाहिए, मैं चाहूँगा कि ऐसा होना चाहिए, even on a general questions. Don't bring this I. Unless the question is like this, okay, Sandeep, what are your views about this particular thing? Sir, I am of the view. Now that is fine. For everything related general matter also, sir, I have found, what is the best thing about education policy? So the answer that he gave was, sir, I liked about education policy this point. Now why this I liked has come? You just mentioned the education, the main feature of education policy is 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't add your liking or disliking when it is not required. Don't mention in your introduction about your services. There is another myth that the board will ask you, why have you taken service A and not service B? Again, I am saying there may be exceptions, but these questions are not asked. They never ask you about your parents, their livelihood, what are they doing. They never ask you how many attempts you have done, whether this is your first interview or second interview or third interview. They never ask. So you also don't have to tell. And in some introduction, I saw candidates saying, sir, I am so-and-so, this is my third attempt, it is my second interview. There is no need to tell. Nor, there was a question which I placed, the same last question of, all right, which question you would like to, topic you would like to choose? He said, sir, ask me about police. And then he added, sir, because police is my first choice. So I said, your first point is okay, police. Just limit yourself to that. You don't have to qualify that your, this is your, selected. Now, one thing which you all have to be careful is that when there is a big gap between your graduation year and today, there are gaps because of somebody trying now. There are gaps because somebody has been trying for many years. Now, what have you been doing all these years? Now, this is something, this may be personal, but this is something which is very close to the heart of the board. What has this candidate been doing? IIT from a reputed institution, passed out in 2015 and taking services today, has to convince the board that I have been involved in something. So, if your details have not been given in the DAF, please tell yourself in the introduction itself. If you know that there is a big gap, nip in the bud. In the beginning itself, in the intro, sir, I did my BTech in the year 2015. So then I worked in corporate sectors for 2-3 years. Then I also started my own startup for 2 years, and then I did some, and simultaneously I was preparing for the exams. Now this goes well. No extra question will ever be asked, nor the impression be made that this person has been, yes, civil services and nothing else, and 7 years have passed. So show that you have been doing something. And if you actually have not been doing something, I mean, you can see what you can speak. Just keeping quiet, sir, what have you been doing? No, sir, I've been just preparing. I've taken leave and I'm not doing anything, and just preparing. Now, it doesn't go very well with the, so पहले से ही one should find out and should not so I told you about the special question of your choice. I had identified certain things for you people, and so possible when it comes to current affairs, what are the possible sets of questions? See the policies of the government. You must be at least know a little bit about, especially if you are an electrical engineer, you should know about the energy policy. If you have done BSc agriculture, you should know what is the agriculture policy. And similarly, whatever background, if technology, then Ministry of Electronics, IT, go through the annual reports, go through the websites of these, and you will be able to enlarge your, mental canvas, and you can pick up answers, pick up facts and figures from that as well. In terms of international, Russia, Ukraine, Indo-China would always be a very important subject. Quad, BIMSTEC, SARC, ASEAN, neighborhood, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, both getting unstable, Sri Lanka getting financially unstable, and Pakistan getting politically unstable. Afghanistan is already, we are not knowing what Afghanistan is. So these could be very important, and of course Indo-Pacific, they will invite a lot of questions. So friends, I will stop here, or rather pause here, and depending upon the time that we have, I am ready to field every question. I will not leave unless I have addressed all the questions. So don't be in a hurry. So with these remarks, I would invite you to ask questions, and I'll try to answer them. Thank you.
So thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful session. Now we, leave the floor open to the students for any questions they might have. Right, so I think we can start.
Sir, my question is about like you mentioned, after almost most of the interviews over, the board will ask something that we want them to ask. So in that section, can we ask something which is not explicitly mentioned in our DEF?
Yes, I told you that.
So like,
in fact, let me tell you, the exact words could be, I mean, they may be different from which board you will land up, depends on the chairperson, because the last question comes from the chairperson. 2, 3 things. One is, they never mention, ask any question from your hobbies. They will tell you, ask question of your choice, something which you think has not been covered, or something from where you would like us to ask a question. That answers your question. You could come out with anything.
Something for like informal kind of job, like startup or something, worked on a startup, that I can
Yes.
say that.
Suppose if you have started a startup.
Yeah, with my friend.
Yes.
2 years.
Yes. So, sir, I would like to tell my experiences of startup and how startup can relate it to India. सब में आप भारतवर्ष को साथ में लेते आप, ऐसा लगे कि आपका सोच जो है वो अभी से ऐसी हो गई है कि आप यू आर थिंकिंग ऑफ अबाउट इंडिया so and how startup can revolutionize in India. तो हो गया वो, फिर आप हाँ प्लीज टेल अबाउट स्टार्टअप. The question could then be, all right, what's your name?
Tanmay Kale. Tanmay Kale.
Tanmay. So Tanmay, tell me, how has this startup policy or Startup India been able to help new startups like yours? New startups like yours. You may not be able to narrate everything unless you say, sir, experiences of doing social work in a village, of Jharkhand or in Chhattisgarh. No, I cannot ask about Chhattisgarh. I say, okay, tell me, what are your experiences? Sir, I did rural development. We did this. We taught people. We made them literate. All right. So tell me, how can you? Why Chhattisgarh's literacy is still not as much as it is for the neighboring Madhya Pradesh? They were the same state some time ago. Expect those questions. It's not that you will narrate, sir, I did this, I woke up in the morning and did this. No. The topic will invite some questions which may have wider ramifications. Right? Just narrating it, sir, I did this and I did that, and we were very happy and we made profit, this. Okay, thank you. Not that. He is asking you, the board member, कि topic बताओ, मैं question पूछूंगा उससे. So you can say, sir, I have done some startup work. So you can ask something from the startups. So you are inviting him to ask question from anywhere from startup. Have I been able to make you understand?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, sir.
You can keep sitting.
My name is Pratika. So I have a very specific question. Suppose that you mentioned that there is a gap between your graduation year and your attempt year, and then you have certain experience. But you have experience in two diversified fields. Say suppose from a corporate to a teaching field, and then you have changed your field, and over the period and over the journey you have decided to give this examination. So does it invite probable questions that why have you changed your field from this to this?
Yes. Good, you have asked this. So there are 2-3 situations. One situation is that somebody has passed out in 2019 and he's done BTech, and after he started preparing for the civil services, and 21, 22 he's been appearing, so there's no gap, and he has no other intentions to go anywhere else. Maybe he has joined some small company here and there, but his basic focus is this. Now there's another case who has done BTech 7 years ago. He was in corporate sector, he was in teaching line, as you are mentioning. That means you had decided some other career for yourself, right? So that question is very likely. So why you from corporate sector, you had been doing so well, they will not ask you for any government service that you, suppose you are in the postal service. Why do you want to come in civil service? You are part of civil service already. But when it's corporate sector, anything other than this examination, they may ask something. If you have appeared in CAPF, you are assistant commandant somewhere, or you are in the forest service. Why do you want to, after similarly corporate, something different from civil services package, the total services. So your answer in that case has to be driven by, yes, why you actually shifted. Now there is a risk. If you say, yes sir, it so happened I tried this company, that company, and there are some cadets who say like this, sir, I found that I'm being wasted there, and there's no scope there, nothing. Don't say that, right? But it's the fact that you have changed your course. So the best would be, sir, actually I had always been, right from the time I did my schooling, 10th, 11th, 12th, I had public services in mind. I wanted to appear, But sir, once I got into a corporate sector, I was doing very well, and I actually could not get enough time to study. So I continued working for a few years so that I can establish myself. So now that I have learned my job, I was able to get some more time to prepare, and so I've taken leave and full-fledged with full focus I'm preparing the examination. But I always had in mind right from the beginning. It's just a brief hiatus, brief patch where I did not, because I did not get time, sir. It is a bit difficult to do justice with both your job as well as preparation. This answer will go well, rather than, yes sir, one day I was sitting in the office, suddenly we had a meeting with an IS officer, and he impressed me so much that I thought, nothing doing, I'm shifting. Now these knee-jerk reactions, are not considered good, because they are not coming, intrinsic नहीं है. They are being influenced. That influence, जब तक वो influence है तब तक हो रहा. जैसे influence खत्म हुआ, अरे ये कहाँ मैं IAS में आ गई, I should go back to the corporate sector.
One more thing, do they ever ask you the remuneration that you were having in your previous job?
No, it is generally mentioned in your DAF.
Okay, it is generally mentioned. And one,
At least I have seen DAF में कितना आप कमा रहे हैं वो उसमें लिखा होता है.
okay, and if there is a change of field and you do not,
And even if it is not written, they never ask. This point is never discussed. How much were you getting there? Why are you coming to IAS? You would be getting 3 times lesser or whatever. Never. They don't provoke you. They may ask you why you shifted. What was an afterthought? Now, don't give the impression that it was an afterthought. This afterthought thing is not good for any of you. You can always give a gap, and sir, I always had in mind, I tried preparing, but sir, I did not get time because it was very challenging, and the new job, as you know, in the corporate sector, it's a fact.
it's a fact.
What is the other one?
There is an additional question to it. Suppose we have a different set of experience, and if we do not mention it in our DAF, so is it a breach of moral integration?
No, it is not. But somebody may ask you, what have you been doing over the last 7 years? Suppose the members can see your DAF and see that, you have given just one attempt, right? And there is a gap of 5 years or 6 years. So it arouses, curiosity. What have you been doing since 2015? Because your first appearance is in 2020. So it is better that when you introduce yourself, when they are asking you to tell about yourself, you cover that work experience portion also, which you have done in between. If you tell that very briefly, it may not invite a question again. You've explained. Sir, I did BTech in 2015, and thereafter, sir, for 2-3 years, I worked in some corporate sector. You need not even mention the name of the company. See, if you mention the name of the company, there are 2 wrong points. One is, you should never name a company. Number 1. Number 2, you will be inviting questions from that, or maybe that entire sector. So if you are ready for that, it's fine. But corporate sector, they may ask you which line, which company, then you answer. But on your own, avoid. So I worked in corporate sector. You can mention what you were working as. What were you there? I was a project engineer, sir. All right. So what projects did you? There can be more questions, and you are very strong in that. Anything asked about work experience, I think nobody can be stronger than you in that room, because we are totally oblivious of what happened with you. So you can steer the discussion. You get my point? But be short. Normally what happens is, another warning to all of you, जो आपके मनपसंद की चीज होती है ना, आप उसको बोलते जाते हो. एक तो आप बड़े passionate, you get into that feeling, my personal things. And the second is that you know so much about it. So put a stop and be very brisk, very, very crisp and very short. 2 minutes से ज़्यादा extend नहीं होना चाहिए आपका आंसर, और उससे ज़्यादा हुआ तो लॉन्गिश हो जाएगा. You wait. If the board wants to ask some more supplementary questions, no, they will ask you. You see, let's be very frank. The board member, when he is asking a question, he knows about the thing that he is asking. He is only verifying The moment he says, all right, India's stand, Ukraine war, this, sir, actually India's stand is neutral, this. So, the moment you speak, जैसे ही आपने मुंह खोला और कुछ बोला, वो समझ गए कि हाँ ये she is on the right track. उसके बाद आपने कुछ एक चीजें और बता दी. The moment you end, if they want more information or related supplementary question, which may be different from the first one, I would say an additional question. They are free to ask you. But stop as early as possible. But don't be so brief that you have not given all the facts. Right? And don't repeat a question. Sir, I feel that as you are asking about the stand of India about Ukraine and Russia war, you have wasted one line. Now this line you may be reciting because you are thinking at the same moment. So it's better that you stop, pause for 2, 3, 4 seconds without speaking about the line and start straight away. Sir, India's stand on Ukraine, the war, has got 2, 3 issues, sir. One is this, second is the structured.
Sir, one more question. If you've changed companies in between, so, and you're not mentioning it in your introduction, so they would not ask about it.
No. See, if you have not mentioned anything about your experience in the companies, and if there's a long gap, then only the questions, the curiosity may arise that why, what has she been doing, right? And if the gap is small, and you may have worked for a year or 2 in some company, it is your wish whether you want to mention about that company. That also you should tell about the company if you wish that some question is asked from there. And if you are shaky about that thing, just keep quiet. But it's always to be truthful. Suppose you say, sir, I did my BTech and then I started preparing you. So you didn't do anything in between. Yes, sir, I worked in some company. You didn't tell about it. Yes, sir, yes, sir. So that's not good.
That's not.
It's better to be, transparent in this. But when it comes to transparency, as I say, don't open your heart when it comes to why are you doing civil services. Your father's dream and your dream. It may be true. What you are saying is 100% true. You may have been influenced by someone. But why speak out? Don't mention anything about your personal thing. It's just your own decision. You got support from everyone, but it was your decision. Clear?
Sir, another thing,
Please, there is no limit.
so another thing is that on YouTube we see certain videos are there of interviews and everything is there. So when I have an optional like sociology. So there are certain questions that are asked from that optional. So do they even get personal questions like about marriage or something like that? I have seen certain
No.
videos.
Or on their own marriage, on the
The institution of marriage, say
Yes.
suppose there are questions
Yes.
of women empowerment,
Yes,
something like
yes.
that. So
They
out
may.
of that, they
Marriage, dowry, child marriage, how the institution of marriage is, whatever. These are not personal questions. These are social issues.
So actually what I wanted to say is that there are certain videos on YouTube of the mock interviews wherein they have asked the candidates certain very personal questions. So
Like, are you married?
are you married or single? Certain.
Never,
Okay. Thank you, sir.
never. So better is to be very selective about watching such videos. So all of you are having your interviews? Okay. Who has in the month of April itself? You.
Hello. So good afternoon, sir. So my question is that, sir, if in the end of the interview, if they ask that what is there which you want to ask from the board, so if they ask this question, then how should we respond?
Never. They never give that opportunity to anyone. And it's a bad manner if somebody asks. There was a candidate, I was in the UPSC actual interview. This was the CAPF, Central Armed Police Force, 2 months back, 2-3 months back. So he said, ma'am, can I ask a question? You're not supposed to ask a question. She literally snubbed the person, right?
And sir, there is another question. Sir, there are two views regarding the eye contact. Sir, some say that you need to look onto the person who has asked the question to build the trust, and others say that you should have a rotating eye contact.
You should have rotating.
Rotating
Okay.
eye contact. So, sir, what should be
Yeah.
followed?
So my advice to you is that you should mainly focus on meeting the eye of the person who is asking you the question, right? Now, for something when you are giving a slightly lengthier answer, which involves some discussion and all, so you can once in a while look at this, come back to the main person, look here and come back, but don't waste time in doing all this. Your mind will say, एक को मैंने देख लिया, वो नाराज हो रहा है, वो मुझे नहीं देखा. छोटी छोटी बातें उसमें मत पड़ो. One thing I wanted to mention, I missed it out. Your interview should be in a conversation mode. If you read UPSC का उसमें भी, they have mentioned purposive conversation for a purpose. So they are not wanting somebody who is explaining. I saw many candidates in the mock interviews who are explaining things. Sir, actually this is done because there's now boards, they don't need explanation. And when you start explaining, you become longish, right? For example, okay, India stand. Sir, India has taken a stand which is in the interest of nation. Russia has been our old friend and we are dependent on them for many reasons. And in thick and thin, they have been very. Now you start explaining, sir, actually what happened in 1971, this happened. And I would like to recall how Russia helped us in this, or how US did not help in this. Why do you have to explain? You just structure it, mention those points, and that's all. Unless they specifically ask you, why do you think, then. So it has to be in a conversation. The second thing generally is, you are so stiff and you are speaking as if, जैसे वो आप अभी तो खैर कोई आपको दूरदर्शन पे कोई प्रोग्राम देना हो तो आप okay, clap, and then they start this, and you are totally stiff. That is not bad, that is not good. It has to be a kind of conversation which you do respectively with any adult intellectual, right, in which he is asking you something and you are replying. Get my point? So this is also something important.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, what else?
These are two.
But बटन वाला ध्यान रखना भी,
Sure, sir.
और जैकेट जरूर पहन के जाना. हाँ. See, whatever God has made you in whatever form, right? You should put the best form of yourself. They say best foot forward, but I say best form. So look the smartest that is possible. And rest is all that you answer. So personality is also a physical personality also. You should not look casual. A casualness is bad. Another thing, you should not look serious. You see, you can be serious on 2-3 occasions. One, you are serious when you are very nervous. Number two, you could be serious when you are retrieving the knowledge, information, इसका मैं ढूंढ रहा हूँ, ये search किया, वो search किया, and all the time your mind is elsewhere and you are, maybe you are in eye contact, but then you are seriously, your expressions are very serious. So avoid these two. When you have knowledge, then there is no need of being serious. The third seriousness is that I am expected to be serious. But you are actually not expected to be serious, you are expected to be relaxed, comfortable while speaking, right? And if you have knowledge, there is no reason why you should be so serious. And in between, whenever you feel at some point, which is the right point, you could give a smile also. You should look as if, but don't smile too often. I have seen one candidate, I keep, getting those memories. So everything is done smilingly. So that shows casualness, that, we are friends. If you are not able to answer anything, Oh, sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. Now there's no need to do like this. Are you getting my point? Any other question?
Hello, sir.
Hello.
My first question is, if they are asking for an opinion on a particular issue, and I gave my opinion, and the board member disagreed with it, and he or he said that no, this is not correct, then how long can that deliberation go on? Can I argue with them, or can I put my point more forward?
Good. Now, whenever you are asked on any ticklish issue, there can be many, and ask your views. Okay. Now, take for instance, let's take an example. Generally, I've been asking this. A recent thing generally is asked. CUET, Common University Entrance Test. You've heard about it? Now, it has been already announced that, what do you think about Common University Entrance Test? You think it's a good step? What are your views? Sir, it's a good step, it will do this, it will give a common this thing instead of moving around to colleges, this, for, tests and all this, and the plus points. So, is that all? Don't you think there's any negative? No, sir, there's nothing. Everything is fine. Now, don't take that stand. Don't take that stand right from the beginning. Whenever something regarding your views is asked, okay? Or analyze, okay, tell me how you feel about CUET. Sir, the Common University Entrance Test has been brought about with a very good objective, that, all that you were speaking in favor. So, however, it needs to be seen, sir, how effective will it be, because there have been concerns. Don't put it yourself, you put it on the public view. So, there have been concerns in the public that 10+2 board examinations and whatever a child has done, student has done in the schooling, will not have any importance at all, will not carry any weightage in his life, in his future career. That is something, sir, which is slightly. So, even academicians are raising these issues. So, I think that's some further debate on this point could be helpful. You have given your view. Now, generally they will not say, okay, yes or no, tell me this or that. That holds, generally is not done. If somebody is, कोई exceptions में पूछ लेता है, so it can go on and on, but don't never say straight away, sir, I don't agree with you. Suppose I'll provoke you. So this India stand, I don't think it is neutral. It is pro-Russia, and we have shifted our non-alignment policy, and now we are into blocks. Quad is one. We are favoring Russia. What do you see? What do you say about it? Sir, it may be perceived partly as if, we are bending toward Russia, but sir, Russia has always been our friend, and we have not taken any shown any sudden inclination towards Russia. It has been carrying on for ages, and they have been our friends. So how can we, say that we are tilting towards Russia? That is one. So I think that we are looking into our own interests, sir, and that is, we are independently looking into our interests and not depending. And this Quad and other things are not blocks, sir. They are basically for cooperation. So we are into cooperation with SAARC. We are into BIMSTEC. We are also having some meetings with ASEAN. So we are part of G20. Understood? Don't never say, I don't agree with you, sir, I differ from you. Don't think that it is a very good statement and aap apne reasons dogi to kya very good. Howsoever provocation they may do. If you are, so best is to take a balanced view right from the beginning. Yes.
So is that answer, for example, if they're asking me a question on any government policy, and for a particular government policy, I'm not in support of it, can an extreme can an extreme stand be taken for that? For example, I'll give you an example. In Bihar, there is liquor ban. So if they are asking me a question whether a liquor ban is justified or not, if my stand is a blanket ban is not justified, can that answer be given? with substantiation, or should I take a balanced view in that also?
So for liquor ban and prohibition in Bihar, now you can only highlight one negative aspect. Despite that, तो आप कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते. अगर आपने किया, that itself is something which that government knows the best, not you. Have you understood my point? You see, the only, I've worked in states, I'm from Rajasthan cadre, so we have seen so many such actions. Every action which is supporting socially may have repercussions on the revenue collections. So when some state prohibits, the only concern is of money. The rest is all win-win. So don't rub on a point where against it. I mean, no, sir, I don't think liquor. Why you are against prohibition? Sir, because, entertainment and tourism, and so revenue loss. The revenue loss is not concerned. That Bihar has to see whether the revenue loss has happened or not. It is not. So you have to, by and large, protect it. And the best way would be, sir, I am all for, in favor of prohibition, sir. It has done this, it has done that. It is one of the best social reforms which have happened in Bihar. It has come out with some, if you are from Bihar, come out with some substantiated facts. I asked this question from somebody day before, and he gave very good answers. That women are, they are more safer, they are saving more money, and savings have increased, crime has come down. So all these, so you are speaking in favor. So the only thing which goes against this, but sir, for that the state has to see whether they can afford the loss of revenue at their level. But if somebody is asking, this UP and Assam have come out with state national policies, population policies, state population. What are your views? They have introduced disincentives. So what are your views about it? Are you in favor of such a thing? Why is Bihar not doing? Your own state. Should Bihar also do it? Now what your answer would be? Balanced. So normally, sir, population control, we have been achieving good results. The nation is entering into almost the fertility rate and replacement rate are about to mention. At this point in time, no other state has done, and we have not used this disincentive policy anywhere. But anyway, UP and Assam have brought this policy, maybe to disincentivize some people who are having large families. But I still feel, sir, that since it has worked so well all these years, it could have been continued like this, and there was no immediate need for such a policy. And you have not touched any other aspect. The motive part, whatever is the agenda or why it has been done, you don't have to. Right? But you must know about the policy also. What to. Have I answered? Okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wise inputs, and I'm sure that would really help the candidates in the interview preparation, right? So this is a token from City Beautiful. This is the hand of Chandigarh, the open hand.
Okay.
Right. So.
Thank you.
So this is a symbol of Chandigarh, the open hand, right? And I think this is actually a symbol of our students as well. They have openly received the knowledge that we.
In fact, I'm so glad to be among all of you today, and the best takeaway for me is that I've been able to help some students and some candidates and I wish you all the very best. I wish to see you all at LBSNA, because I sometimes come as a guest speaker also there. So I want to see all the faces present here in LBSNA, okay? All the best. So anyone who had a question in mind but could not ask, come out. puts it in the lobby level.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sleepy Classes. And today we have with us an esteemed IS officer from the 1981 Uttar Pradesh cadre. Sir, Mr. Anil Swarup, he's also a very renowned author. His book, The Ethical Dilemmas of a Civil Servant, is a must read, I would say, for most civil servants who are either aspiring or even in service, I would say. Right, so so has wide experience. The most interesting thing which I read about him was that he was when the Ram Janmabhoomi episode was happening, and Sir was the district magistrate there. So Sir has very deep insights into various facets of Indian politics. So Sir, I think if you can start.
Okay, very good afternoon to all of you. I would suggest a change in the seating arrangement. First of all, those of you that have qualified should sit together in a semicircle. Or who of you are candidates here? You are a candidate? Come here. Because, I want to have a conversation with you. Okay, and you can make it into semicircle here.
So, we would just like to honor you with the bouquet.
Okay, thank you very much. These are lovely flowers. Thank you, beta. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, इसको यहाँ लगा लीजिए ऐसे, और थोड़ा पीछे कर लीजिए so that I can also, आगे यहाँ bring a chair here. It will be easy because see, yeah. Who else? Any one of you a candidate? No. Yeah, please sit. I'll pick up a chair. ये बैग किसका है? यहाँ रख दूँ मैं इसको? आइए. I'll sit here. बैठिए आइए. Come. All the candidates to sit so that I can have a conversation. Everyone. Okay, so what I will do is, I will wait for them to arrive before I start my general conversation. In the meanwhile, I'll try and get to know you all. Once I know you, I'll be able to guide you better. Without knowing you, it will be general conversation. So, there are 2 more days here. So as we wait for others, we'll go one by one. You introduce yourself. And as you introduce yourself, you tell me what you are good at. Not what you've written in your DAF. I've seen some of it. But tell me what you're good at. And speak the language that you're going to speak before the board. If it is English, speak in English. If it's Hindi, speak in Hindi or any other language. My suggestion to all of you would be, which I'll give to others also, start eating, drinking, sleeping, thinking, speaking in the language that you're going to speak before the board. And I'll tell you how to go about it later on. Okay, starting with you. So there is a difference between hobbies and what I have asked you, but since you say both are there, I'll come to that later on. What about you?
So my name is Yash Vishen. So I'm from Bhagalpur, Bihar. So I got trained myself as a merchant navy officer in training ship Chanakya. So after my graduation, I'm preparing for civil services with sociology as my optional. And so my hobbies are playing guitar and doing pranic healing.
कौन सा गिटार बजाते हैं? Which guitar do you
So acoustic guitar.
Is it a Spanish guitar or Hawaiian guitar?
So Spanish guitar.
So which all chords can you play? All chords or some chords?
So I can play all chords. So there are some bar chords which I find difficult to play. But other than that, most of the chords I can cope.
Sir, good evening, sir. Sir, my name is Ishan Uplegar, and I come from Pune. I have completed my BE Mechanical from University of Pune, and since then preparing for the UPSC. And my hobbies are playing volleyball, and I am good at teamwork and communicating with others.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Shreyansh and I am from Haryana. I have done my graduation from Delhi University, and since then I have been preparing.
Which college of Delhi University?
Sri Aurobindo College, sir.
Which subject?
History, sir.
History.
Yes, sir.
And what was your optional subject in the IS?
History, sir.
History.
Yes, sir. And since 29.
Is this your first attempt?
No, sir. Second attempt.
First attempt you qualified for the mains?
No, sir. Not.
You couldn't worry.
Yes, sir. And I've been involved in data analytics and also in internet blogging. So I've been doing it as a hobby of mine.
afternoon, sir. My name is Tanmay Kale. Sir, I graduated from Ujjain Engineering College, Ujjain, in chemical engineering. I come from Ujjain, and my hobbies include gym workout and watching science fiction movies. That's what I'm good at, analyzing the movies from the perspective, science fiction perspective.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Kritika and I'm from Meerut. I've done my post-graduation from NIFT, National Institute of Fashion Technology, Ministry of Textiles.
Which,
And
Ahmedabad?
Bangalore.
Bangalore.
Right, sir. Actually, it's in Gandhinagar.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So, and I write poetry. So, I'm into writing and poetry and content. So, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I have seen some of your, not yours, but some of your DAFs I've seen. Had I seen them before, I probably would have advised you to write it differently. But now that you've written, we'll see how do we work on those DAFs. Because I jokingly say DAF is like, हमारी तरफ यूपी में कहते हैं बंदर के हाथ में अस्त्र थमाना. DAF does not give you marks. DAF gives the leverage to board to ask you questions. So you have to be careful about what you write. You can't write anything that comes to your mind and you write it, and then you end up answering questions on something which you're not very familiar with. So it creates a bit of a problem. But nonetheless, don't worry about it. What you've done is done. What we will try and do is, in the coming days, what can you do to improve a bit of your performance? Given the short term, you can't improve your performance dramatically. But if you do what I tell you to do now, I'll also like to know from you on which date is your interview, so that I can tell you in the given time, what best can you do to improve? When is your interview? Will somebody note it down, please? And give it to me later on. Just note down the dates as they say. In a sheet of paper, just note down 23rd May. Give it to somebody else. You all have to be with me. Don't jot down anything. Just be with me. Let somebody else do it. Okay? Let somebody else write it. 23rd of May. So you have time. 21st of April, you have lesser time. You also have time. Good. 3 of you have good time. Okay, reasonable time. What about you? What's your good name? Kritika. Acha, you're not qualified for the interview. So my address would be primarily to 5 of you. You can also take note of it. Okay, so since we don't have anybody else coming in, let me start my conversation with 5 of you. See, first of all, you have to understand, has anyone of you appeared in the interview before? Is this the first time? Okay. So you have to understand, what does the board want? Because even if you're going to sell anything to anybody, you'll have to understand what that person wants. So first part of my conversation with you would be in terms of what exactly does the board want? And then you'll prepare accordingly. Except him, others have reasonable amount of time. And if you follow what I tell you, you will see the change in yourself. You'll have more confidence in what you say. So that is one. What does the board want? Once you know what the board wants, then how do you prepare in the next month and a half that you have for the interview? And that will be based on what the board wants. And third part of my conversation with you would be, what do you do at the time of interview? So there are 3 parts to it. One, understand what the board wants. It's very important. Second, how do you prepare yourself for the board till such time you have the interview? And third is, what do you do on the date of the interview? These 3 parts. Now, the first part, let me tell you, you must understand that this is not an interview. This is a personality test. What is the difference between an interview and a personality test? In an interview, the primary focus in assessing your knowledge. Now, your knowledge has already been assessed through your written exam. By and large, the board is not going to assess your knowledge. They are going to understand your awareness level. Meaning, how much are you aware of the events around you? How much are you aware of the people around you? How much are you aware about the place where you are living? And how much are you aware of what is happening around the world today? So the focus would be on awareness rather than your knowledge. Obviously, when they would be seeking answers from you, they would also assess the depth of understanding of that issue. And when I say that, it would not be about the subject that you've offered. Someone has offered histories, whatever subject you've offered. I don't think there aren't very many cases where they ask you about the subject that you've taken, the optional subject you've taken. So some people ask me that should we prepare for those optional subjects? I said, don't. Don't waste your time on optional subject right now. They will very rarely will they ask you a question on option. They may ask you a question around that optional subject. Now, what is the difference? So, for example, if you are a student of, or if you opted for political science and international relations, then you would be expected to know better than others in terms of responding to what is happening in India and elsewhere in the world. So, your knowledge of the subject will not be sought, but on the basis of the knowledge of your subject, what is your understanding of the international events or the national events, and how do you interpret them through your knowledge or understanding of political science and international relations. Similarly, someone who's studied history they will not ask you questions on history per se, but they may ask you certain historical reference of the current events that are happening. Do they have a historical reference? So they may refer to your knowledge of that subject in the context of what is happening now. I will come back to you and ask you the subjects that you've offered or the subjects that you had in your graduation, and I'll be able to guide you as to what sort of questions could be asked of you. एक चीज ध्यान रखिए, don't be tense or look tense. The two of you look very tense. कि भाई भी मौका है, भाग खड़े होंगे यहाँ से. Relax. बिल्कुल. Say you have to make a conscious effort. Keeping relaxed. And those that have time, I'll tell you how to go. But let me tell you what the board is expecting first. Second, board is looking at your ability to grasp issues, to analyze issues, to present issues rationally and reasonably. Now, what I do is, and all of you are happy to, I'll give you my telephone number, you send me a message. You can join the WhatsApp groups who I'm guiding for interview. Last year, I guided more than 100. This year also, a large number of them are there. So what do? I'll tell you how you can use the next month and a half to equip yourself for the interview and develop these faculties of being able to understand issues, grasp issues, analyze issues, present issues. It's very important. You have to develop the capability of logically presenting an argument. But for all that, you have to improve your communication skills. So you may have everything sitting here in your mind, but if you are unable to speak it logically, nothing will happen. Now, everyone, I also passed through the phase that you are passing. At your age, at your level, even I was not as fluent as might appear to be today. So it's important for you to understand that you should not compare yourself with me or with somebody else. You will think, "Arey, Mr. Anil Swarup aaye the, wo to bilkul sarrate se bol rahe the. You speak so fluently." I was not as fluent as I am now. It's the experience that gives me fluency. Yet, there was a difference between my first year when I qualified for the police service and second year when I qualified for the IS. Just for your information. And that's what I'm going to tell you, that what did I do which was different from first year to second year. In the first year, I got around 55% marks in interview, in personality test. Second year, I got 80%, which was the highest level. Now, what happened in the first and the second year that I'll share with you? You can also follow that drill. And if you do that, there will be some, if not such dramatic improvement. I can assure you with my experience of past few years of guiding people like you that the change will come about. But first, you must understand that the board is looking at your ability to understand issues, your ability to analyze issues, your ability to logically present issues, and finally, which is most important, your ability to understand issues positively. Now, what do you mean by positive? You are budding civil servants. You want to become civil servants. Now, civil servants cannot afford to be negative in their approach, no matter how bad the situation is. So if you find time in between to read this book, Ethical Dilemmas of a Civil Servant, you'll find that in every instance, no matter how bad it was, I was positive. And what is that positive? So any situation you give, you can be critical of what the government is doing, but in the ultimate analysis, you have to present to the board that you think a solution can be found. Take, for example, the Kashmir problem. Now, Kashmir problem, they might ask you, suppose you become the Home Secretary of the state, how will you solve the Kashmir problem? It is not that they're seeking solution from you. They will give you a problem. It is not that they're seeking problem solution. Because if Kashmir problem was so easy to be solved, it would have been solved by now. It is difficult. They are looking at how do you approach a problem? How's your analysis of the problem? How do you look at finding solution to the problem? We will come to specific questions later on, but what I'm trying to convey to you is that the board is looking at such people who are able to look at it positively. Yesterday, before I traveled to this place, I was in Hyderabad. I addressed about 250 officers of Indian Police Service, Revenue Service, and other services. And while interacting with them, this is the impression I also got, that when board asks questions, they are looking at you as an individual, whether he wants to solve the problem, whether he thinks that there is a solution to the problem, whether he finds or not, it's not an issue. But how do you approach that problem? So you have to develop that thinking in the coming few days. So broadly speaking, the board is not looking at your knowledge. They are looking at how do you analyze an issue, how do you present an issue, and what is your approach to it. My dear friend, if you can keep quiet, it will be better. You can have the conversation outside if you have. आपको फोन से बात करनी है, बाहर जाके बात कर ली, है ना? So you have to be focused. Like I got disturbed with it by him. I was focused with you and there was this disturbance coming from elsewhere. Next month and a half, you have to be absolutely focused on this. Right? Now let us understand how do you prepare yourself for what the board wants. And this is important. Listen to this carefully. First, the time is very short, but you should try and improve your communication skills. Those that have more than one stand a better chance of improving. You can actually improve. I've seen it happen. Now, how do you go about improving communication skills? Listen to this very carefully. You all must be reading some newspaper. Which newspaper do you read? Indian Express. What about you? Okay. So, every newspaper has an editorial page. You understand what an editorial page is? You open that editorial page and pick up one of the two articles on the editorial page. You understand the difference between the editorial article and the editorial? Editorial is on the extreme left, then there is an editorial article. There are two of them, one above the other. In Indian Express, I know, Hindu, I know, there are 2 to 3 articles. Pick up any one article. Stand before a mirror and read the article aloud. Daily. Do that for next 10 days. You will see the improvement in your diction in 10 days itself. Pehle dusre din, when first 2 days when you read it, you'll find it very funny and you'll fumble. Don't worry. It happens with everybody. You do it for 10, 12 days, your speech will start improving. The advantage of reading this article is threefold. Number one, your speech improves. Number two, all these articles are based on some current event. So you develop awareness of that current event. And number three, and very importantly, you understand how a particular issue can be discussed. Most of these articles are very logical, one after the other. So if you read it, you'll find a logical presentation of an article. So you do that in the next 10 days. Thereafter, after 10 days, when you become slightly more fluent, the practice actually is for a month, but you do it, since you only have around a month, month and a half, you can't carry on. After 10 days, when you speak about what is written in the article, thereafter you present your own point of view on the issue. You understand the difference? Initially, for first 10 days, you will read the article, put it down, and then what you will do is, after 10 days, you start speaking in your own words what is written in the article along with your point of view. This will improve the fluency. Again, you will fumble. On all these cases, since these days you have recording facilities, you record your reading. You record your speech after you've kept the paper down and you're speaking it in your own words. Do you get it? Did anybody do this in the past? Any one of you? Okay, so since if you do that regularly, you will improve. Okay, that is number 2. Number 3, what you have got to do is you get into a group. All 5 of you can form a group on WhatsApp. Okay, every day one of you will declare a topic for the discussion on the following day. Any topic, any current topic, Ukraine crisis, fuel prices, you can pick up any topic. And after you decide upon a topic, on the following day, the person who has been nominated to speak on that topic will prepare and speak on that topic for 5 to 10 minutes. After he's spoken, then the other 4 of you will comment on that. Formally for 1-2 minutes. And then you'll have an open discussion on that topic. How does this help? It helps you understand a particular topic. So if you start doing now in next 30 days, you would have covered 30 topics, 30 current topics. And the chances are that the board is going to ask one of those questions. So you prepare yourself accordingly. Okay. Secondly, what it does is it improves your articulation. Third, and very importantly, it also helps you how to express. Now, I'm slightly digressing to explain to you that at your age, you're not supposed to know the final solutions to all the problems. So you don't have to say, no, sir, this is right. This is what it should be. Like somebody, when I was saying, somebody said, I'm forgetting, somebody mentioned a point and he corrected me. That it is not this, but this. You have to be careful about how you speak. And I'll come to that when we come to the board on the day of the interview. So these discussions will help you build 30, at least 30 topics. And it will also help you express yourself. Finally, it will also help you how to converse. Because this personality test is more of a conversation. They're not there to grill you. They will converse with you. And I can tell you about what happened with me. The difference between the first year interview or personality test and the second year was that in the second year, it was reduced totally to a conversation. It was like we just speaking to each other. It is not that they were asking me something, we were conversing. They just raised an issue and we were all discussing. What you should also remember, that the board does not expect you to know everything. So if you don't know a particular thing, then it is best to say, sir, I'm sorry, I'm not aware of this. Now here you must understand the difference between fact and opinion. Facts, either you know or you don't know. There's no guesswork. Until they push you hard to guess, never ever state a wrong fact. If you're not aware of a fact, just say no. And don't worry about no, because again in second year where I got 80% marks, there are 25% cases in which I don't know an answer. And I said, sir, I don't know. It didn't impact my marks. In fact, that reflects your honesty. That clearly reflects that you're honest about what you're saying. And that's what they want. See, they are not looking at answers per se. They're looking at how do you answer a question. This must be understood by you. And that will give you a lot of comfort. Otherwise, you will try and gain as much knowledge as possible. Don't do that. Whatever knowledge you have is good enough. It's now a question of how do you present that knowledge. That's very important. That's extremely, extremely important. Because if you're unable to do that, then there's a problem. It's the how part that is more important than what part. So you'll have to do that. So once you practice, put these two into practice, number one, reading out the editorial article every day aloud, and then speaking it out in your own words. And number two, having a group discussion every day on a new topic. Will you be able to do that? All 5 of you? You can form a group. And if you send me a message on my phone, I will enable that. I already have about 6 groups, separate groups, having such discussions. You, all 5 of you can form another group. So you can do that. Okay. So this is as far as preparatory work is concerned. For preparatory work, also look at some other aspects. Prepare yourself about where you are living. So suppose someone is from Jharkhand, you must understand what are the problems relating to Jharkhand. Okay, are you for the personality test? Okay. Yes, most welcome. Come. Good afternoon. So, if you are from Jharkhand, Jharkhand has specific issues. So, you must know about your state, you must know the problems of your state, you must know the problems with the surrounding states. So, you should be able to understand what are the coal mine related issues, then from that, what was the coal scam, what was the outcome of it. So, you have to know your place very well. Secondly, and someone is from Ujjain. Who said what from Ujjain? You are from Ujjain. So, why is Ujjain historically important? What are the existing industries there? What are the existing problems of Ujjain? Then what are the problems of your state? What are the problems of your state? So, apart from the state, you ought to know your city. You know, if there are well-known places there, you ought to know about them. Then also, if there are well-known institutions there. So, for example, if Ranchi has a particular institute or Dhanbad has a particular institute, you should know that what does that institute do. And then from that, there could be other questions. What is your response to conversion of engineering colleges into IITs? You should be able to answer that question. That shows your awareness levels. So, wherever you are living, so your state, your city, what are the major problems of your state, what are the major problems of your city. If there is an event in the recent past of that particular state or city, then you should know that, what happened in that event, what is the response to it. So, as I keep saying, they are looking at the awareness levels. How aware of you are you? And here again, as I keep saying, if you are not aware of certain facts, admit it. Admit it straight away. I'm telling you, I distinctly remember in 25% of the cases, I said, sir, I don't know. It didn't really matter to them. You know, they're very happy. Now, some of them, because they go on and on. I mean, UPSC has been inviting me to be there on the board, but I have consistently refused them because it's a conflict of interest. I talk to you, I can't go and sit there. But you know what happens there is, they get bored during the day. Day in and day out, they're interviewing, they get very bored. So some of them will be reading their book when they're interviewing. So don't get flustered by their indifference towards you. In my case, there was a gentleman who was reading a novel. Not a novel, it was a different sort of a book. And suddenly when his turn came to ask me a question, he read out a sentence from the book. And he said, Mr. Swarup, what do you make out of this? So I said, sir, until as I get the context, it will be very difficult for me to respond. No, you tell me something about it. So I told something about it. Once he pushed me, I told something about it. Then he said, no, but the book is different. They have a different point of view. I said, sir, permit my saying so, but that is why I asked you to give me the context. Because I don't know the context, the chances are that I'll give a wrong answer. But if you give me the context, I'll try and respond. Then he explained, then I said, yes, sir, I agree. I wish I had known the context before. I may have given you a different point of view altogether. So other members started laughing at him. I mean, don't do that. It happened inadvertently. There was a police officer, a retired DGP sitting there. And since I had already been in the police, he said, why do you want to go into the IS? Is police so bad? Now I'm specifically referring this to you because that's where they were again trying to test my approach to issues. So I answered this question by saying, sir, I've thoroughly enjoyed being trained as a police officer. It's a wonderful service. So I'm not, in order to call another service better, I don't have to necessarily say that this service is bad. I said this service is very good, but this is better. And then I explained how it is better. I went on to explain at length because I knew, being a police officer, appearing for the IS, I anticipated this question and I was totally prepared. I answered that question. And I told him so much that the others and he himself didn't know what I was telling them. They were not aware. I told them I was prepared. There's some aspects that you can prepare yourself. Some you would not know. But if you know how to answer a question, you will be able to attend to any question that you have. So this is as far as the preparation work is concerned. Now on the day of the interview, what do you do? Wear something you feel comfortable in. Comfortable doesn't mean you should be casual. You should certainly not be wearing what you are wearing. Certainly not be wearing what you are wearing. You are fine. But I wonder whether in this heat, when it's 40 degrees outside, you should be wearing a necktie. If you feel, wear it. I have no problem with that. I did that. I mean, board is not going to ask you on that. I remember in the first year I was wearing a suit. For the first time in my life, I never worn a suit before that. My dad had insisted, so I wore a suit and a tie in the month of, I think it was May. It was very hot. Not May, it was April. But still very hot in Delhi. And I felt very uncomfortable in that suit. The board didn't even notice it. They didn't ask me anything, but I was uncomfortable. Second year I went in a in a in a shirt, collar shirt, no tie, nothing. You should go in something which you are comfortable in. Don't wear these shoes. Wear black or brown shoes. Don't go in sports shoes. And don't wear a new shoe because it will creak as you walk. You will feel uncomfortable. Try not to wear a new shirt also. Try something which you are comfortable in. I'm saying that. Don't wear anything outlandish. And since there's no lady here I also advise them not to wear a strong perfume. I keep telling everybody, it's not a beauty pageant. It's a personality test. And if you want to keep a beard, no problem with it. But don't go unshaven. I mean, you want to be, it's a trimmed beard, it's fine. And of course, you all have a great, wonderful hairstyle, but I have people, these days I don't know what sort of hairstyles we have. ऊपर डब्बा रख के नीचे उड़ा देते हैं, क्या करते हैं, पता नहीं. Don't wear that, because then they might ask you a question on that. And that's why I am very particular about how DAF is written, because they will pick things from there and ask you questions, and I'm going to come up with some of the questions that could be asked of you. I've seen some of your DAFs. Then, first, you should be a very patient listener. Don't jump in when the question is not complete or an observation is not complete. You know, sometimes, I don't know whether you were in class, you are excited, you know the answer, so before the question gets over, you say, no, ma'am, yes, sir. No, let the question be complete. Never ever cut the question or the observation in short, never. Let the person complete it. Pause for a couple of seconds before jumping onto an answer. Pause. It will give the board an idea that he doesn't want to, he's not impulsive in answering questions, he's reflecting on a question and then answering. That's very important. That's the message that you got to do. Then your body language is very important. Body language is, number one, you should look into the eye of the person who's asking the question. But if you can cultivate the habit of nodding and addressing others also, no harm. But first thing is, don't look like this and answer. You'll appear very shaky. You must look at it. And looking does not mean staring. There's a difference between it. Of course, now, if you all can physically have that group discussion which I was suggesting, it would be great. But if you can't, have a virtual one. But there again, because in all these groups that I have constituted, I keep going in between for 5 minutes, just observing those candidates as to what is their body language, apart from what they're saying. Whether they're looking at that person, whether they have shifty eyes, whether they appear confident. So that's very important what your body language is. Then, remember that there is no one Mr. Know-all sitting there. No one. So don't feel bad if you don't know a thing. Sometimes you feel, Arey, I don't know this. Then you're going to destroy the next question. You start losing confidence. And this is very important for you to think. I'm going to tell you just now. There are no perfect individuals in this world. I've seen the best of people. I've seen presidents, I've seen prime ministers, none of them is perfect. All have their problems. If you think that Mr. Swarup is speaking so fluently here, Mr. Swarup also has his problems. It's not that it might not appear to you, but everyone has problems. So would you? You also have problems. So having problems, having shortcomings is nothing unusual. And don't compare yourself with him or me. We all come from different walks of life. We have a different way of expression. You may know something better than him. He may know something else better than you. So don't compare yourself with others. It's a competition. You're competing with each other for few seats that are available. But feel good about the fact that you qualified for a written exam in a difficult exam. You qualified for the interview. So take pride in that and smile on occasions. You don't have to necessarily be very tense. When you're having a conversation, you don't have to laugh, but keep smiling. That's the best thing that you can do with your lips, no? I mean, someone tell me there's one better thing that you can do, but this is certainly a very good thing to do. Keep smiling on occasion. When somebody is talking to you, a slight nod of head, don't shake your head, slight nod, meaning thereby that you're with that person. These are things which are very, very important. So you can gain a lot of confidence by looking at positives of what has happened in the past. You can look at negatives also. Yeah, yahan ye nahi hua, wo nahi hua, arey wo nahi hua. Tell me one person who's only succeeded in life now. Everyone has failed at some point in time. And I keep referring to my book. If you read the book, then so many failures in that book. So many failures. I failed on 3 months before my retirement, I failed in one thing. So how does that make a difference? Yeah? I took it in my stride later on. Earlier, I used to feel also first year interview it was not as successful because I got stuck on a question, and in future question, I will still stuck on the previous question. वो तो आया नहीं, वो तो जवाब नहीं दे पाए. It was then that I realized, नहीं दे पाए तो नहीं दे पाए. And finally, since all of you have qualified for the written exam, you have the metal in you, no? Civil service में नहीं होगा, कहीं और होगा. Not everyone qualifies for the interview exam. So don't worry about it, this is not the end of the world. And that will make you lesser tense. If you think this is the end of the world, if I don't qualify, what will happen? Then you will be in trouble. That was again the difference between first year and second year. I was already in the police. I said, nahi lenge, I'll be in the police. But that attitude you have to develop. Once you have that attitude, then you will not be tense there. You'll say, okay, if it happens so. In any case, you absolutely no control over results, no? Whether you qualify or not, finally. So why be tense about it? Be relaxed. The chances are that you'll qualify. So I've spoken, say, for about half an hour, 35 minutes. I'll stop here. I'll first answer the questions that you have in your mind about what are your problems, what do you apprehend. I'll try and answer them. And after that, I'll come back again, ask you some questions. Any question?
About our weaknesses. So how to go on that?
Do you have any weakness or you're a perfect man?
No, definitely.
What are those weaknesses? Be honest about it.
Yeah.
What is it?
One is self-criticism. Criticize myself a lot. Sometimes
yourself a lot is not a weakness. It's your strength.
So sometimes that goes in a negative direction. That's why I consider it as a weakness. Major weakness, this is only I can recall right now. So how to go about that without making it sound like I myself is a negative person?
See, by admitting the fact of having weaknesses, you are not a negative person. In fact, the first response was that you are positive. But if you get totally engaged in it, then you won't have time to improve upon it. If you're reflecting on it, then probably the chances are that you will improve. It's a question of how do you approach your weakness. You approach your weakness as a natural existence, and you commit yourself to improve upon the weakness. Okay, from purely this personality test point of view, what I have discerned so far is your communication skills. You'll have to improve your communication skills dramatically for you to come out fluently before the board. And hence the drill that I told you are very critical for you. If you don't do that, then you may have it here, but you won't be able to convey it effectively. So do that. And as far as the question that you raise, weakness is concerned, you say, sir, I sometimes wallow in my own weaknesses, which I think itself is a weakness. I appreciate the fact of some of my weaknesses, but sometimes I am unable to come out of that. I'm making an attempt. Perhaps I'll succeed. So this is also a very important aspect. You're not supposed to give definitive answers of everything. You don't know. No one knows. So hence you will attempt to use words like probably, most likely, based on the information at my command, or based on the information that I have got, based on my limited knowledge. These are the terms will help you to keep your back door open, that in case you are cornered, you'll be able to get out. But if you say, no, sir, Kashmir problem, sir, they should use army and they shoot the people who are shouting, and then problem will be solved. Meaning thereby that you have the perfect answer for every question. No. In any answer, you will have to limit your understanding to the level of the knowledge of the circumstances around it. Because if there are additional information that becoming available, then probably you may change your view. So you should not appear to have fixed views even on most extreme issues. So for example, hijab. I'll come to this. I'll raise some issues and seek your response to it just to understand how do you look at it. And these are the issues that you can discuss in your group discussions also. Any other question that you have? I'm asking you to ask me questions of the problems that you may face or you apprehend to face in the course of interview.
Sir, I was about to ask you the same example of hijab, like how to maintain a balance of opinion in this.
Okay, so one important thing that you have to do is to maintain that balance. And how do you maintain that balance? By stating the pros and cons of both the issues. Because without that, you won't be able to bring balance. And never start answer by saying this is right, this is wrong. Your right and wrong comes at the end, after you've analyzed it. It can't start with that. So for example, hijab controversy, if I were to look at it, I would say that, to my mind, sir, if a particular institution has a regulation of not allowing a particular type of clothing to be worn, then the person who joins the institution has to take a call whether he wants to go there or not. Okay, that's his personal choice. But sir, in my view, I think every lady should have a freedom to wear what she wants to wear. It appears that's her right to decide. I mean, institution can say that if you want to come in my institution, you can keep a dress code. That's very fine. But if we prevent a lady from wearing what she wants to wear, so long as it is not outrageous, who am I to tell her what she should wear? So you are giving a balance. You are saying that institution can have a right. If it is legally entitled, I can have a right. I mean, there are many clubs where you have to wear a tie and a suit to go in. If I don't want to go there, if I want to go there, I have to follow that discipline. So that discipline is created by this institution for everyone across the board. So if they have a particular regulation, that has to be lived with. But to extend that and say that women should not be wearing hijab is not correct to my limited understanding. And I would believe that women should have the right to decide what they want to wear. I should not be sitting on judgment on that, so long as it is not outrageous. I mean, I can't decide that this is right and this is wrong. Does that appear to be balanced view? Okay.
Sir, I have a question regarding, sir, that you have mentioned in your book, Ethical Dilemmas of Civil Servant. So how to deal with ethical dilemmas in interview? Like we have, for example, Kane Betwa link project, so environment and development. So how to go about it?
So take any issue, you say development has an impact on environment. So we can't take an extreme view that we won't have any development and because of environment, because that will be retrograde step. The challenge before the administration is to see least damage to environment or restoring environment when any such project is taken up. So for example, if a canal project has to be taken, then we have to balance between the benefits that will accrue out of that canal as compared to probably some of the trees that may have to be felled in order to let that go. There are many ways in which this can be restored, either by transplantation of the trees that are there or maybe planting additional trees. So there are many projects where it is mandated that a particular number of trees have to be planted if another number of trees has to be taken off. So administration, or while taking this decision, we have to take care of environment, as has been the case in a large number of cases where they have been able to take care of environment and development has taken place. So it should not be seen as adversarial, the development as well as environment. So again, I'm giving a balance. You can't become an environmentalist. Sir, stop these canals and everything because environment is getting damaged. And you can't even say, sir, to hell with environment, development has to take place. You can't take that extreme view. Both have to be sustained. That's what is expected of you.
Questions like police handling riot situations. So how to go about it?
So if suppose they ask me that if you were the SP of a riot is happening, sir, under the law, it is expected of me that I will enforce the law to ensure that there is no damage done to public property or person. If there is a public property and person are being damaged, then it is my duty to ensure that it doesn't happen and use appropriate amount of force. That's what the law says to prevent that from happening.
We have to side ourselves with the law.
You can't be otherwise at all. You can't say that I will violate the law. Then the balance will have to come. Since you've read the book, you would have seen situations where you bring about a balance between complying with the law, yet taking people along with you. It can be done. So that's what the answer would be. Okay?
Thank you.
Hello, sir. While I was watching my mock interview videos, so I realized that I'm blinking my eyes too much. So although I don't do while in normal conversation, but that thing I found in my mock interviews. And also, sir, sometimes I'm nodding a bit too much. So, sir, shall I try to restrict it, given that my interview is on 21st of April?
No,
No.
just forget it.
Okay.
Just forget it.
So
There's
with-
nothing wrong in blinking, so long as both eyes are blinking. If one is blinking,
So
then
both are blinking, sir.
I can see both are blinking. There's nothing wrong. I don't find it unusual.
Okay.
It's very okay. If you're nodding your head a bit more, let it be. You can't change it in next 21 days, so don't be even conscious about it. I shouldn't be saying it, but I'm not too much in favor of mock interviews. Because mock interviews only give you a test. How does it help you now? You can't change too many things now. So don't bother about it. Just forget about it. Just forget. I mean, you're coming out natural. Your blinking is very natural. It does not betray any nervousness on your part. And since you do it regularly, so it doesn't even convey nervousness. And since you are looking at me, it doesn't really matter if you're blinking. As I said, I mean, so long as both our eyes are fine, it's fine. Any other observation about yourself, problem or anything?
Sir, not as of now, sir. If I can get one or two, then I'll ask.
Sir, how to control nervousness? Because I feel whenever...
Good. So I wish somebody asked this question, and I'm glad you asked it. For finding solution to any problem, and I'm generalizing it, and I'll come to your specific problem. First, you must accept the existence of that problem, which he has done. Sometimes we push it under the carpet. I don't want to show it. Like, यहाँ पे फुंसी हो गई तो उस पर क्रीम लगा लेते, छुपा देते हैं, प्रॉब्लम को छुपाते हैं, और गंभीर हो जाएगी. It will become worse. So it's better to expose the problem, accept. Why accept it? Because everyone has problems. You have problem of nervousness, he'll have problem with other thing. Many of you would be feeling nervous, don't have the courage to say that you have said it. You should take pride in the fact that you've been able to admit a shortcoming in public. Good. That's the first step towards improvement. Now, how do I improve it? Try and understand the cause of that problem. For any problem, if you understand the why of a problem, the chances are that you will be able to find a solution to that problem. Any problem, not only this. Why do you have nervousness? You have nervousness because you are uncertain about the consequence of what you're doing. No?
Yes.
If you are certain, there will be no nervousness. Like I'm talking to you, I'm not nervous because I couldn't care less. But you are caring because aapka to, you don't know how many marks will I get if I'm... So that makes you nervous. This takes you to the third step. You have absolutely no control over the results. Do you?
No.
Even now at my stage, I don't know about control. So I don't even care about results. The moment you stop caring about results, you stop becoming nervous. Your awareness about the result makes you nervous. If you live in the moment, you are conversating. You are fairly fine talking to me because I'm not giving you marks. If I sit down and start, that's what happened in mock interview, You start giving them marks. And then you become conscious. You kam milega, zyada milega. Mr. Anil Swarup to aage chale jayenge, farak hi nahi padna. So you're not so nervous. But if I were to give you marks, you'll become nervous. Situation is the same. It is the marks that are making a difference. So you have to get out of that mold of somebody else assessing you. And it happens even when marks are not given. Pardon my, the two ladies sitting here, pardon my saying so. आप जब कपड़े पहनते हैं, अपने लिए नहीं पहनते, दूसरे के लिए पहनते हैं. वही प्रॉब्लम शुरू हो जाती है. The day you started wearing clothes for yourself, you'll be very comfortable. You're wearing for your comfort, not somebody else's discomfort. But you become, अरे अच्छा तो नहीं लगेगा, वो कैसे पहन के आएगा, उसने क्या पहना है. So the second problem is that nervousness comes from becoming a competitor. यार वो तो इतना अच्छा कर रहा था, अब मैं तो ये करता नहीं. You must understand that each one of you has some positive features. Otherwise, you won't have qualified for the written exam, right? Each one of you has a shortcoming. So you are getting more nervous because you are more aware of the consequences of what you're saying. Think over it. Yes. And you realize that once you can detach yourself from the consequences of what you're doing, and once you understand that competing with others is not going to help you, because competing with others will make you even more nervous, then you will be yourself. Be yourself. Everyone sitting here is unique in his her or own way. Everyone has unique. Everyone has unique positive features. Everyone. She has another, she has another. It may not be similar to you. He may be fluent in speaking. She may be good at body language, exuding confidence. She may not be as fluent. The third person may be better aware. Fourth person may have a better way of presenting things. So everyone has a quality. And that is why you have to look at the positive moments of your past to make you feel confident. This lack of confidence leads to nervousness. No, I gave you that example. He has read the book, he knows it. I was booed out. Did I tell you? In IIT Kanpur, I had gone for a debating competition. This was before I joined the service. I was doing my graduation. So I was representing my university. So one day before the competition, there was a music competition. So I thought I can sing also well. Everyone thinks that he sings well. So I went and participated in that music competition. Within 15 seconds, I was booed out. 1,000 strong students, boo! Because I picked up the wrong note, I was booed out. I was shattered after that. Imagine next day was my debate. So I decided I will not participate in the debate. So one of my seniors told me, यार वो तो निबट गया उसका तुम कुछ कर सकते हो. But I was too shattered. I said, I won't. Anil, बीती ताहे बिसार दे आगे की सुध ले. And this is not the only failure. You had other failures in life, but you succeeded also. Look at your successes rather than failures in the past. And somehow he convinced me to participate in the debate next day. I did. The moment my name was announced, 1,000 crowd, the same crowd said, Gayak aa gaya. They thought yesterday. But by that time, I had overcome that. And I spoke, and I got the first prize in the national debate on that day. One day before, I was totally shattered. Shattered because I had not prepared well. I had participated in a competition without preparation, and I deserved what I got. Next day, I had prepared very well. So you all are preparing for your interview, for your personality test. Why should you bother? You know, if you keep this in your mind, nahi hoga to koi baat nahi hai. Abhi to I have traveled this good distance. Out of more than 1 lakh of people, only 2,000 have qualified for the personality test. So you are 2% of the top. You've done that. अब थोड़ी बहुत edges हैं इधर उधर, वो in next 1 month we'll try and sort it out. नहीं होता. So that will give you confidence. Think over what I am telling you. Once you think over, you'll be able to overcome this lack of confidence. And then all of you, 5 of you, should, as I said, form a group. Keep discussing these issues every day. And these days it's very easy. WhatsApp का group में देखता हूँ मैं, उसी में शुरू हो जाते हैं. फिर कोई Google में शुरू हो जाता है. कहीं शुरू हो जाइए आप.
Everybody is telling that in interview you should be calm. So how to instill that calmness?
Same thing. The lack of calmness comes from your nervousness. If you're not nervous, you will be calm. You will not be agitated. And also, keep in mind that you're not supposed to know everything. This nervousness also comes, मालूम नहीं क्या पूछेंगे, क्या हो जाएगा. Because you can't learn at the last moment. That's why I keep telling you, don't get down to learning or changing too many things. Just refine what you already know. Refine how you can present. Your focus should be on that. And always be positive. नहीं होगा तो नहीं होगा, कुछ और करेंगे यार. I mean, no, I'm telling you, I have yet to come across somebody who's qualified for the interview in the services, not made it to civil service, did not get a good profession. Anyone who's qualified for the written exam and into the personality test has got good service somewhere. So don't worry about it. You've traveled this distance, you've done wonderfully. You'll do well afterwards also.
Sir, and I do not have any previous experience of UPSC personality test also and any interview for that matter.
No one, who has that interview? Everyone appears for the first time sometime, no?
So
you can't be a born UPSC aspirant, no?
Yes.
Everyone has his first time. What's the big deal about it?
Yes, any other private sector interview also I don't.
I had just one interview before that. I remember that question that was asked of me. This is just the only one interview. They asked me, since I did music as my hobby, they asked me, Mr. Swarup, will you sing a song for us? Now that's a very tricky thing. So I told them, sir, I am a Kansen, not a Tansen. I listened to the music. Oh, hasne lage sab mast ho gaye. Khatam ho gaya. I mean, if you can develop a sense of humor, nothing like it, but you can't do that in next 1.5 months. I don't expect you to do that. If you have I remember in my second year interview, everyone was laughing at the end of it. Everyone, everyone was laughing. So when I came out of the hall, I knew I'll qualify for the IS. I knew it on that day itself that I'll qualify. Because everyone was relaxed. I was also not relaxed. I was also relaxed and everyone else was relaxed. No one tension there. And the first reason was that I couldn't care less. ले या ना ले मेरी भला से मैं तो आया हूँ यहाँ से बातचीत करने करेंगे नहीं तो निकल लेंगे. That gave me enormous amount of confidence. I was not nervous at all. First year, oh ho, यहाँ बैठे थे. यहाँ की बजाय आगे बैठे. That was nervous. That's the difference. That is something which you should keep in mind. What is your background? You plan to become a civil servant? Oh, wonderful, wonderful. You appearing, इनको mic दीजिए.
No, thanks, sir. I have a bold voice. I
Yeah.
manage that.
Yeah. Okay, very good, very good. What's your background?
Sir, I'm a graduate from
Okay, which college?
Illinois.
Which college? Oh. Any other question that you have? Now you can shoot any question. Now let's go beyond what we were discussing. Any question? Please.
So I have this question regarding like when we were discussing about the hijab rule. So there is a judgment that the Honorable High Court has given. So regarding that, how do you deal with such tricky things whenever you are,
Okay, so let's expand the discussion, and let's now say that if now that a High Court had decided upon an issue, what is your view on that? So if I were to respond, I'll say as a citizen of this country, I'll abide by what the decision of the High Court is. I have no other option. But if my view is asked, I would still believe that this choice should best be left to the women. They should decide. And High Court decision also does not say that women should not wear hijab. They say that in that particular institution, if the institution has certain stipulation, that is legal. And in my initial comments also I had said that it's the choice of the individual to go to an institution or not to go to an institution. If they have a particular discipline, I have to follow that discipline. If I don't follow, I have a choice not to go there. But this can't be extended to force the women not to wear a hijab if they want to wear a hijab. So there's no contradiction between the two. Any other question?
My same question is, so should we go about the breeding economic survey and the budget of the state, particular state?
No harm in doing that. You read as much as you can about your state, but they will not ask you about basics. They will ask you if it has been in the news. So let's go one by one, each of these states, and understand, because I am not so aware. I don't watch television, I don't read newspapers. So I'm totally ignorant and I'm very happy. I can afford to be that now, but you can't do that. But let me, from my little knowledge that I have, let's look at Jharkhand. Which state are you from? Maharashtra? Bihar? Haryana? So we have 5 states here. Let's look at each one of the states. And each one of you will understand what are the likely issues that have to come. So let's start with Jharkhand. Now Jharkhand, first question that comes to my mind is, what was their need for bifurcation of the state? Has the state benefited out of bifurcation? No, don't see. मैं आपसे फिर कहता हूँ, आप yes or no से आंसर कभी शुरू ना कीजिए, है ना? There is an article, in fact, in my book, there is a chapter on Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. So you'll benefit, because there's data given on why Jharkhand is benefited, but not so much as Chhattisgarh. So they may ask whether, if there is someone from Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, they'll ask you this question. Do you think bifurcation of the state is the right way of going about it? You should be able to answer that question. To me, more important is, you can note down some of these topics for your group discussions also, bifurcation of states. Because there is MP here, there is Jharkhand here, Maharashtra has still not been bifurcated, but Bihar, of course, is being bifurcated. So bifurcation could be, does it benefit the state? The states. So those could be asked. Similarly, in Jharkhand, you'll have to look at the impact of coal mining. Then there's this issue of coal burning, if somebody has some history. So the Jharia coal mines are still up in, still burning. Environmental pollution, mafias, Naxal movement in Jharkhand. So these are coming to my mind like this. So you should know about this. And more than knowing, you should know how to express it. Now let's come to Madhya Pradesh. Now, has Madhya Pradesh benefited out of bifurcation? What has been the impact on Madhya Pradesh? There's been a lot of talk about improvement in per capita income of Madhya Pradesh, improvement in agriculture production of Madhya Pradesh. So all these things you must understand. Then from tourist point of view, now all this talk about the irrigation in Madhya Pradesh, how does it work? Are these, the rivers that are going in the northern part of Madhya Pradesh, are they benefiting that area? So you have to know about your state very, very well. In Maharashtra, who's from Maharashtra? In Maharashtra, the problem in Vidarbha, how is it different from problem in Maharashtra? Do you think, going by the experience of MP and Bihar, should Maharashtra be bifurcated? What are the problems with Maharashtra and Karnataka? The bordering areas between Karnataka, the Gulbarga part and Maharashtra part. Then sugarcane, is it beneficial for the state, beneficial for the environment? Should a state like Maharashtra, with its rainforest scales, be doing sugarcane? So you have to think about issues relating to the state. They will not ask facts. You have to look at the recent newspapers. I mean, these days it's very easy. You type problems in Maharashtra on Google and you'll get all the problems. You don't have to go anywhere else, you'll get all the information. So information is very easily available on fingertips. The point is, how do you express? To me, that's most important. So do that. Which state were you in? Haryana. Now Haryana, the farmers' movement, impact, division of Haryana, Punjab. You know, all of you are from states which have been divided at some point in time, and you should be able to know that. The major issues that confront Haryana, the Jat problem in Haryana. Now, if I were to ask you, is it a genuine, do you think Jats have a genuine, serious problem? I have no idea. You'll have to answer that question. Is there a serious problem? Then reservation could be asked. Now, it's a very sensitive issue. My point of view is in a chapter in a book. But don't take that point of view. It will help you only to analyze an issue. In the book, you'll find some issues have been analyzed. Look at the approach, how that issue has been approached, how first the analysis happens, and then conclusion is not an extreme view on the issues. So as I keep saying, it has to be a balanced view. That's what is expected of civil servants. So you have to, as I said, it's very easy. Just Google your state, problems in such and such state, and you'll get all the problems. Read them, discuss them as much as you can. My suggestion also to you all is, apart from the 2 drills that I said, even when you're walking and you're doing nothing, your mind should be thinking of some issue. And thinking logically. It's very important. Mind is a monkey. It keeps jumping from here, 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 here. What you have to do is to see how can you think one after the, logically one after. Even the 2 of you, if you're planning to appear in the civil service future, if you can tune your mind to think logically, then it becomes much easier to answer questions in written or even in the interview. It's a question, like if you give me any most absurd of topic, my mind will start ticking and start thinking logically about that, one after the other. This camera should be thrown out of this room if I were to write on that. I should be able to write an essay on that. And there is a structure through which you can do it. I'm not going to the details because that's for essay writing. But if you have that mental frame of looking at issues logically, then it becomes that much easier. So that is about states. Anything else about the states? Now, Bihar, they would ask you a number of issues regarding the corruption part, regarding the law and order. They could ask you, why does Bihar continue to remain backward despite so many years of independence? Don't start by denying. You deny it, and don't say no. You present your case in a manner that it appears a denial. That's an art that you have to develop. Sir, whereas Bihar has had its problems, and there are a number of reasons for those problems, I think in the past few years there has been some attempt to improve, and give some examples of the attempt that has been made. Despite these efforts, the Bihar continues to lag behind. But my hope is that given the initiatives that have been taken in the past few years, it will improve. So you've given a positive tilt to a negative point. The idea is you don't have to contest what they're saying. You have to demonstrate that you think positively. It is a subjective view of any individual and he's free to have that view. You're not fighting with him. You're merely saying, sir, this is also a perspective. And you give a positive perspective. That power situation has improved, law and order has improved, and there are statistical details available to demonstrate that And that gives us a lot of hope that more can be done. So you're given a positive tilt to a negative situation. You give me most absurd situation, I'll find positive in it. When I was posted as coal secretary, everything that was wrong had gone wrong with the coal sector. You know, CBI was after files, after offices, mafias were. So when I walked into that room, there was only depression around me. How did I think? I thought, yaar, sthiti itni kharab hai, aur to kharab hogi nahi. Jo bhi hoga, achha hi hoga. And I can walk away with that credit. So I'm literally telling you how I thought. Because my mind had been tuned so positively. You give me, I mean, I shouldn't be saying it, but let me tell you. I had cancer last year. Down with cancer. Okay, now how do you look at cancer? In my coming book, I'm writing a chapter on that. So it's a 3rd stroke, 4th stage of lymphoma last year. And I'm sitting before you. So what was my attitude to it? Yaar, marna har koi hai, main bhi marunga yaar kis din. Jitne tak jinda hai, udne din I'll keep firing on all cylinders. So I had lost 10 kgs of weight, I was sick. But I used to have a webinar every day. मैं जो करना था मैं कर रहा था. अब जो चाहना हो चले जाएंगे यार. मैंने ठेका लिया है. कौन, is there anybody on this earth who will live for all times to come? हर को मरना है यार, मुझे भी मरना है. What could be worse than that यार? So I looked at it that even positively यार. जिस दिन जाना हो चले जाएंगे यार. जब जाना है उसका तो मुझे पता नहीं यार. जब तक हैं तब तक तो रहें. In another chapter in my book I write, if you look, read that book, I was posted as managing director of a state financial corporation. It was making losses for 7 years. And my job was to wind it up. So how do I revive that organization? So I thought of an idea. I shared it with everyone. All the officers, 300 officers, and I told them, देखिए ऐसा है, you all know that you're going to die 6 months down the line, meaning thereby you'll be thrown out. Now I have an offer for you. You can die now, or you can live with me for 6 months. The chances are that you might live thereafter. Choice is yours. You can die now. Everyone traveled with me. It has become a case study. The organization was transformed. It may not have been transformed. It could have been dead. But in any case, it's again your thought process. You can think you are dead right now. That's what I was telling him. आप तो वही कर सकते हैं जो आप कर सकते हैं. जो आप कर नहीं सकते उसके लिए परेशान होने से क्या फायदा यार? वो बोर्ड वाला आपको क्या नंबर देगा वो जाने यार. आप तो नहीं कर सकते ना. आप अपनी तैयारी कर सकते हैं, बाकी वो जिसको देना वो देगा. It will give you enormous amount of confidence. Even in the worst set of circumstances, you will think positively. यार जो कर सकेंगे हम करेंगे. मेरे हाथ में जो हम करेंगे, बाकी का तो आप कर ही नहीं सकते. Do you think you can do something else together? You know, when I got into the service, I got married and we were once driving. So I don't know how it happens to you. I used to get very agitated in traffic jams. Very agitated. गुस्सा आता था, बाल नोच रहे हैं. So one day my wife was with me. She asked me, इनका तुम कुछ कर सकते हो ट्रैफिक जैम का? मैंने कहा मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ इसका? She said, फिर खून क्यों खिला रहे हो अपना? When you can't do anything about it, why unnecessarily get hassled about it? No. So my friends, you have your strengths. Work on their way. और जो नहीं है आपके हाथ में उसका आप क्या कर लेंगे? कुछ नहीं कर सकते आप. क्यों परेशान होते हैं? जो ऊपर वाला बुलाना होगा जिस दिन लिखा है डेट, हमारा आप चेंज थोड़ी ना कर लेंगे. तो अब उस चक्कर में कि और ये चले जाऊंगा मैं और ये क्या होगा, आप आज भी मर जाइए. अरे मस्त रहिए यार. फिजिकली आई वाज टोटली शैटर्ड, मेंटली आई वाज वेरी अलर्ट. अरे जाना वो चले जाएंगे यार. अभी तक तो बची गए, अब आगे देखेंगे. नहीं वो तो फिर चले जाएंगे, उसमें क्या. नो वन लिव्स फॉरएवर. नो. If you can have that attitude, it helps. Then you will get the confidence. You'll never be nervous. Your nervousness is, यार मालूम नहीं क्या हो जाएगा, और ये क्या हो जाएगा, इसका क्या हो. आप नर्वस हैं. आप चिंतित नहीं हैं. See, friends, see the past is dead and gone. उसका आप कुछ नहीं बिगाड़ सकते. हम अपना टाइम वेस्ट करते हैं पास्ट के बारे में. उसमें we live in the past. उसने ऐसा क्यों कह दिया और ऐसा क्यों हो गया, ये क्यों हो गया, वो चला गया. कोई बदल सकता है पास्ट? No. Except some political party is trying to change the history of the country. Otherwise, you can't change the past, no? Just can't change the past. हो गया. Future का पता नहीं क्या होना है. अभी तो present है. इसी का आप कुछ कर सकते हो. आपके हाथ में मस्त रहिए. इसी में टेंशन रहिएगा तो फिर आगे तो अटेंशन रहेगा ना. फिर कैसे होगा? Relax. ठीक है? Any other question? बिल्कुल आ सकता है. See, center-state relations have been tense right since independence, and nothing new. Okay. And there will be issues between the center and the state. the idea should be to keep in communication with this between center and the state so that each other appreciate each other's point of view. Now, obviously, the states will always be asking for more, and center will say that we've given you more than what you deserve. But this has to be based on realistic assessment of each state. Now, historically, mineral-rich states have had a tough time. So if you look at the level of poverty, comparatively speaking, mineral-rich states have more poverty than states that are not mineral-rich. So that issue needs to be addressed, and addressed in a manner both by the center and the state. The question here is whether the revenues that accrue as a consequence of these minerals are flowing to the state or not. If they are not sufficiently flowing to the state, then states have a reason to claim for more revenues. Now, it cannot be said across the board, but say in case of coal, most of the revenue or most of the value of coal has been taken away by central entity called Coal India Limited. And hence, the states are not seeking some portion of the revenue that is accruing to Coal India. So there appears to be some, don't say there is a difference between. There appears to be some logic behind it, but sir, I don't know the depth of the issue, but this is my limited understanding. So you don't have to go and explain कि वो 1000 करोड़ इतना है, इनका 500 करोड़ इतना है, इतना इसलिए इतना है. You don't, that's not expected of you. It's your approach that is very important. Ask any question. Now it's open. Now you ask any question.
You said in your book that you are not being paid for your honesty. You are being paid for getting things done.
Yes. Yes.
So how to interpret it?
So the question could be, do you think honesty alone will help people? Are those there for the interview? None of them? So why are you sitting there? If you want, why don't you come here? आगे वाली कुर्सी पे आइए. You must have come here for a purpose. Obviously, I'm not so handsome and beautiful to look at me. You come here to listen. So come here and sit. All of you are aspirants for civil service? Wonderful. I wish you had come earlier. Okay, so what I say is, and that could be asked of you, there's some questions that have been picked up from my book. So they could ask you, is honesty alone enough? No, don't answer. See, you all will have to get into the habit of not starting with yes and no. Get into a conscious habit. That group discussion will help you. Because the normal, as a youngster, and I don't blame you for that, our normal response is yes and no. Because we think that we know every answer. No. So no or yes is a categorical statement or agreement. You shouldn't say that. If you have to say, start with yes, convert it into no, no. No means you are contesting somebody up front. Don't do that.
For every question, you have to say sir or ma'am.
See, it should come naturally, whatever. You don't have to necessarily say sir. And don't add sir before and after every word. That is also not required. Whatever comes naturally to you. Okay, don't address them by their first name or Mr. So-and-so. You have to sir them, ma'am them, but don't do it as often. So let's understand this, because these type of questions will be asked. So whereas honesty is a necessary condition for a civil servant, his job is to perform on the ground. There are a number of officers who end up doing nothing in the name of honesty. Okay, all you youngsters, if you come here to talk to me, come here. If you want to have a chat, you can go out. Come here, sit here. You shouldn't be wasting any time. Listen to what I'm saying, and maybe I'll have your observations. I'm assuming all of you are aspirants. Okay, wonderful. Any of you qualified for the personality test? You're preparing. Okay, I'll have a separate chat with all of you. Beyond, after I'm completing with them, I'll have a discussion with you all. So what I was saying was, and you can listen to all this because it's not merely relevant to the personality test, it is useful for you, those of you that are appearing in the coming years. So honesty is necessary. It is expected of a civil servant to be honest, but it can't be honesty full stop. He has to perform. So he has also to be efficient. And if you have read that book, that's precisely what I'm trying to say in that book, that an officer is paid to perform. Honesty is essential. But some people interpret it, sir, would you accept a dishonest officer who's efficient? It's not a question of acceptance. It's an a priori requirement. It is a necessity for an officer to be honest. But he cannot only be honest. And that is why you find a large number of honest officers doing nothing. Because they think if they do, there's likelihood of some dishonesty happening, which is absurd.
You have to be relative about it.
So I can use the word absurd. You should never use the word absurd. If I were you, I'll say, sir, whereas honesty is absolutely imperative and essential for an officer, in my limited understanding of the service. Why limited understanding? Because you've not been an officer. It is not expected of you to know what the service requires. What you are saying is in your understanding. And that is why I come to some of your drafts that you have written, where you've given something. You don't have to necessarily say that this is it. You're saying your understanding is based on what you are aware so far. That's an important aspect that you should remember. That you are not the ultimate arbiter. You don't know the ultimate truth as yet. You are saying, or you are coming to an observation, or you're expressing a view based on the little information that you have. Thereby, admitting before the board that if more information becomes available, maybe you'll change your views. Your views are not frozen in time. You are confident about your views based on the information that you have. But some additional information comes to the fore. Is that right? Any other question you have?
Sir,
Yes, please. Yeah.
sir, I have a question since we are talking about ethics. How to enhance your emotional intelligence when you know and that there is you lack in it, or maybe it's not up to
Okay, the first important step towards improving your emotional intelligence is to appreciate the necessity of it. Sometimes we don't sufficiently feel that it is required. That's the first step. Second, to observe those people who have better emotional intelligence, observe them closely. Because emotional intelligence, for that matter, ethics, cannot be taught. It has to be imbibed. And how is it imbibed? If you find that it is useful, then the chances are that you'll imbibe it. If you find that it is sitting there with Mahatma Gandhi and Gautam Buddha, then you will say pranam and not imbibe it. Because they are Mahatmas. They were great and they had it. If you find it in normal human beings who have succeeded in life, having that emotional intelligence or having those ethical values and succeeding in life, the chances are that you'll imbibe them. So the best way to imbibe positive qualities is to interact with such people who've had such qualities and succeeded. It's important. You know, more often than not, we quote honest officers who have suffered. So you have in the social media, he's an honest officer, he got transferred 62 times. Now there you're giving a wrong example because here is a failure. But if you look at some people, and there are many of them, if you read Ethical Dilemmas, I mean, there are so many examples of ethically efficient officers who've done well for themselves in their lives. Can I have some warm water? Garam pani la sakenge kya mere liye? Garam pani le aayenge gale ke?
Nowadays, clean and efficient civil services, is that become a misnomer according to you? What is
After having read the book, if you ask that question, surprises me. If you haven't read the book, I could have understood. You know, Mr. T.N. Session, how would you rate him? He existed here, no? Mr. Sridharan. I mean, if you read the book, there are a number of officers that I've mentioned.
You are from 1980, 1990.
Even now, my next book has 25 case studies of officers who are efficient and honest.
In the site also. Not the
Yes. If you go to Nexus of Good site, hundreds of positive stories. Hundreds of officers who've done wonderful job. But we don't discuss them. Why? Because we like masala. मसाला पसंद है ना सबको. सब नेगेटिव दूसरे के बारे में बड़ा मजा आता है. कान खड़े हो जाते हैं. अरे हाँ, उसने ये किया था, उसने वो किया था, हाँ, उसमें मजा आता है. हम मुक्त कंठ से बुराई करते हैं, मुक्त कंठ से तारीफ नहीं करते. That's what Nexus of Good is all about. So what if I were to answer that question? I'll say, sir, it takes all types to make this world. Yes, sir, there are dishonest officers also, but I understand there are very good officers also who be not only honest and efficient, and you can name a couple of officers and say, sir, I don't know many officers, but I know of officers who've done well for themselves in life and they were honest. So it's wrong to say, sir, only dishonesty pays. Honesty also pays. Sir, I think the choice is with an individual. He can decide which one he wants to follow, which one he wants to use as a role model. Now, this will show you in a very positive frame of mind. ये time है ना अभी कहाँ और your next session is about to start. 10 to 15 minutes. So they all have come for the next session. Is that right? Somebody else? Okay.
Sir, although we do want to have an idea, but there are other services in offering and we have to fill those in our priority. So can you discuss about other services?
No, I can tell you, you're not supposed to know too much about other services. If you know, then there is a serious problem. So long as I don't recall having seen your DAF. So long as your order is either IS, IFS as the first choice, then there's not a serious problem. There's some people who give revenue service as the first choice, then they will have to find an answer to that question. Why have they given? Because that's an unusual thing. So the DAF actually picks up unusual part of your pro forma. If there is something unusual, they'll ask you. So for example, if I remember correctly, in one of your DAFs, I saw who has written you it, and what is the other thing that you've written? Pranic healing, yeah. Now, you must know about it. Now, hobbies does not really mean that you have to be an expert about it. You know, I had written music as my hobby and they asked me to sing. I said, I'm a Kansen, not a Tansen. You know, you don't have to know music in order to like music. Hobby is basically what you do during your spare time. No, and you like it. So it could be anything. You have to explain why do you keep it as a hobby, but you need not know a lot about it. I mean, if there is a guitarist sitting there, then he might ask you some questions about it. The questions, because I also play the guitar, so I know. So I'll ask you about chords. And if you're just playing, if you just mention it, then you'd be in trouble. So then it's fine. You should be, and you answered the questions pretty well. So you should know something about it, not everything about it. And in any case, you get this out of your mind. You're not supposed to know everything. You're not Mr. Know-all. And that will give you enormous amount of confidence.
Like in MP, Japan was a heated issue some years back. So recently also some irregularities are there. So it has come into news much. So if they ask any question regarding that, so how will I address the irregularities in Japan
So if you have to first know what was the irregularity in Japan. If I don't know, then I'll say, sir, I'm not fully conversant with what happened in Japan, and the issue is over. But if I know the irregularities, then I'll have to see. If I were to answer that question, I don't know, I'm not fully conversant with Japan. But I think corruption can substantially be handled through technology, and I can explain that. Again, my book has a chapter on how technology can actually. So you should be able to answer that. I can answer that question, how technology can help handle corruption.
The question is asked. Can we give example by comparing, like, say the best practices which PSIR has followed, same the Japan board can also follow. We can say this type of thing.
No, you can say, but words have to be different. Listen to this very carefully. Sir, I understand. I understand means that I don't know. There's a difference. I understand that MPPSC has come up with a system which appears to be above board, I'm not saying which is above board. See, look at these terms. These are important. When you say which means you finality, you know. Which appears to be, the chances that I may be wrong, which appears to be above board, perhaps we can consider using the same methodology in this, and it could bring down the chances of corruption. So you understood, you heard me out? Now, since we are running out of time, you can note down my telephone number, all of you, mobile number you can note down. 1 minute, I'll just give I'll answer any questions that you have. 98 999 823 88. Now, if you WhatsApp your details to me, I'll include you in the group. It already has around 50 people in that group. You can constitute a group there. You can have discussions. You can raise issues. The first session or the second session with this group is tomorrow. Today is second. It is on the 4th. I'll send you the Zoom link. You can join there. You'll benefit from discussions that take place there. And I'll be periodically having those discussions. I'll probably be calling some others who've done well in the interview to talk to you all. you'll benefit from it. Okay? You message me on WhatsApp, then of course it will be on some other platform. आपका मीडियम हिंदी है अंग्रेजी है? तो आप सबसे मेरा अनुरोध है, all of you, everyone sitting here, decide which medium is. Each language is very good. You know, हिंदी से बेहतर अच्छी भाषा नहीं है कोई. अगर आप हिंदी में करने जा रहे हैं तो पूरा अपनी चर्चा, चिंतन सब हिंदी में कीजिए. अगर आपका मीडियम अंग्रेजी है, start thinking, speaking, writing in English. Let that be an obsession. Because unless you do that, आप अगर इसको नहीं अपने दिनचर्या में लाएंगे, सामान्य रूप से होता क्या है? सामान्य रूप से होता है कि हम सब की मातृभाषा हिंदी है, तो हम उसको मेंटली ट्रांसलेट करते हैं अंग्रेजी में और उसके बाद अपने विचारों की अभिव्यक्ति करते हैं. ये मेरे साथ था. मैं उसको पहले ट्रांसलेट करता था, फिर बोलता था. तो वो जो निर्बाध रूप से आपका अभिव्यक्ति होनी चाहिए विचारों की, वो नहीं हो पाती, क्योंकि आप सोचते हिंदी में हैं. जब मैं आपसे हिंदी में चर्चा कर रहा हूं, मैं तो चिंतन भी हिंदी में कर रहा हूं. And when I speak in English, I am thinking in English. I mean, it took me some time for doing that. But since you have your exam close by in a year, 2 years, you should start thinking, eating, drinking, sleeping in that language so that your expression becomes spontaneous. Mark my words, this will help you, all of you. I mean, I have a separate session for people who are preparing for the civil service, so I'm not going to the details of it. I'm merely mentioning here, that's important, because no matter what you have here in your mind, until you're able to write that in those 3 hours that get given to you, you'll never qualify. You have to become fluent in your expression, and that communication skills are very, very important for that. Before you all came, I was telling them how to improve it.
So like work with system, don't work against it. Like what does it mean?
No, it is not a question of working with or against the system, because you have defined the system in a particular manner and you say, look at it in black and white. It is not that. System is not in black and white. System mein, there are shades of gray. The question and the art of an officer is how to work with that system. People who think it in black and white either fight with system or totally compromise. It doesn't work that way. In reality, it doesn't work that way. In reality is, how do you wade your thread? I don't know. I think they have some of my books here. If you read Ethical Dilemmas of a Civil Servant, it will take some time. It will take about 3.5 hours. It will answer your question totally.
You said it like don't think about yes or no. Earlier you were saying exactly how to think in a like gray area or other than like right or wrong or something like that.
Why? Because no one knows what is the ultimate truth. I mean, there's so many great people, they're still trying to struggle to find out what is the ultimate truth. So how do I claim to know what is the ultimate truth? So again, in my book, I don't say what I say is right because I don't know whether that's the right. I did that because I thought that was right. And once I thought that was right, I committed myself to that right. Why? Because I drew enormous amount of satisfaction out of doing what I was doing. So the bottom line was whether internally, अपने आप से आदमी झूठ नहीं बोलता ना. Whether within myself I come to that conclusion that it is the right thing and then I'll commit myself to that. Not fighting with others, but trying to convince others about what. That's where communication skills come. That I am able to convince you of a thought which you thought was wrong. But I have that capability of communicating in a manner with reasons that I convert you to myself. Okay? I think we've run out of time.
We have run out of
time. Okay.
So, and this is a memento. This is the open hand of Chandigarh.
I know, Chandigarh.
I think this is from the students.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you and remain in touch. Yes. You can be a part of that and we'll have regular sessions there as well. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to carry these flowers.
Sure. I'll get some more.
Thank you.